All right, here we go. We're in.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back, man. It was a touching tribute Jimmy just had. Coach Barron, although I didn't know him as well as Jimmy did, I did get to meet him a few times in middle school, and it was a very touching tribute. You know, Jimmy had a very awesome wrestling career, and he loved staying on the mat. I'm sorry that for your loss there. I know it's a tough time for everybody. Cancer sucks. I've had friends who had cancer and were able to luckily get over it.
Mm-hmm.
And I've had people or close family friends who have also died to it. It's one of those things where it makes you love life a little bit more and cherish every single moment. Yeah, that's for sure.
Yeah, and everybody, I reached out to some of my friends that I knew were also playing with Coach Barron when I was over at Heritage, and I told everybody the same thing. Like, I thought that old bastard was going to outlive all of us. I thought he was going to be tougher than everybody, and just at some point he was going to be the guy that lived to 130. So it wasn't a shock, because obviously everybody knew that this was probably going to be the outcome, but it hurts. It still doesn't feel good. He's the reason that I kept wrestling all the way through high school. I quit for a few years and then came back and let this 61-year-old man that I met just absolutely ragdoll me. Yeah, I said it. He had like 3 vertebrae in his neck fused. His ankles were fused, so he couldn't bend or flex, like move anything. But he had I think he had something metal in his chin, and he'd like to dig it right in between, where the pec ligament is, and he'd just, you're gonna stay down? It's like, yeah, I'm staying down. I don't want you to hurt me anymore. He's coached so many people, and that's the thing about. It's a good and bad thing about social media, is that you have to see it all the time, but it's cool reading some of the other stories of people that I'm not necessarily wrestled with or ever was in, but he coached for 50 years, so he's coached so many people, and they all have the same story. Like, he was just he was a great person, and all he did was coach year round, football, wrestling, track. And then in the summers he'd do the football. You know him from the football camps.
Yeah, football camps.
He looks like the owner of Orange County Choppers, like long lost brother with the Fu Manchu and the gold tooth. But
hard noses as it gets, man.
He's something else. He never wore long pants in any football game that he coached. And he coached in Wyoming and he coached in Colorado. And he had he was on the staff when Heritage won their state championship when they were 4A. And so he did coach in the dead of winter in shorts. He just put a beanie on if it was a little bit cold. He said he had the mentality that his body wasn't going to be cold, and I believe him. There's nothing that could stop that guy. So it sucks that he's not going to be here, and it sucks that nobody else is going to be able to wrestle for him or play football for him. But I think that obviously he's in a lot less pain now. And like I said, Coach, I'm sure you're listening, I'm sure this is going to get back to you at some point, so I'm sure I'm in for it when I do get there, but I want another wrestling match. I think I could take you now. I think I can get you, but
yeah, it was a touching tribute, Jimmy. This episode definitely goes out to Coach Barron out there. This one's a tribute to him, man. It's going to be a lot of fun. We have so many great sports to talk about,
Yep.
and I was going to be proud of this. But before we dive into everything, man, just want to give a quick shout out. This will be our first episode on YouTube.
yes, we said it. We had it set up last week.
Last week we fumbled the bag and screwed up a little bit, but this week we are finally got the GoPro working, got a decent light, so
Yeah.
hopefully this looks okay. But
I mean, we're ugly anyway, so that you're not going to be able to change that, but at least you can see us.
exactly, so you'll be able to listen to us on Wednesdays on Apple, Spotify, wherever you listen to. Unhinged as well. Unhinged, that's in. And then on Thursday we also will have the YouTube video drop in the morning, more than likely. So if you're listening to this and you want to see our beautiful faces talk a little bit, then go check the YouTube page out. It's at the Far on the Bench podcast.
Yep.
Same thing as
everything else. We
So-
also started a TikTok. I know a lot of you guys saw that when I posted it, but we'll be posting like clips and stuff.
Jamie will be posting those.
Yeah.
I'm not shaking my ass for no TikTok.
I told you, that's Dom and I shake our ass on TikTok, but I'll save that for my personal one. The podcast will be sports takes, and then we could have done something when Bird was here. So when we have interviews, we'll do like behind the scenes stuff, and we'll post it there and on the YouTube channel, because now we got to generate some content for the YouTube
We'll have a
channel.
bunch of content on there. If you're watching, I'm wearing my Broncos jersey. I'm gonna have a different one every week.
Is that Davis or is that?
It's Phil Lindsay, the
Okay.
GOAT, the Denver GOAT, baby. So I gotta rep my team, even though we lost. We'll get to that later on. But before we get into sports, gotta talk about Spooktober, baby. It's the last week of Spooktober.
It's almost over.
Last week you had some very, very questionable picks at candies, but that wasn't your forte. So I'll give you a little bit of slack there.
Yeah. I don't like like sweet things, honestly. Well, I don't like sweet things as I'm drinking an unnamed soda since we're on YouTube. I'm not going to tell you the brand, but I am drinking a soda. Some people like my things. The Dum Dums is where I pulled a lot of people back. I saved it with the Dum Dums. But I had guys that I played with in college like, dude, your candy picture ass.
Yeah.
I'm sorry.
It could have been a little bit better, but this week, so we are, there isn't a whole lot left, so we went with top 4 or top activities in Spooktober. There's some main ones that I got to hit on. Neither of us like going to haunted houses. I was traumatized very badly when I was a kid by Chris.
Birdman.
By Birdman.
Yeah.
By Chris, when I was little, he took me to a haunted house when I was 10 years old, 9 years old, and I was, oh my God, I had so many traumatic.
I'm sure that he was like going to the haunted house where they made you sign the waiver, like these guys will be able to touch you.
And the worst part of that was too, we got to cut the line.
Yeah.
And so I didn't get no time in between. We haunted house hop like 8 different ones, back to back to back to back, and I was having to go through each of these without waiting in a line, so there's no buffer zone.
Yeah.
It was just a 10-year-old kid, just ridiculous, holding on to my mom just as I'm going through the haunted house.
Oh, I can't believe that your mom let Chris talk her into letting you go to that. That doesn't. I thought that your mom would definitely be on the side of like, no, we shouldn't. You should at least be 13.
No, she let Brock sit out, but I had to go. So she let the younger brother go or sit out, but I had to go through that. But haunted houses are a great thing to go back if you're coupled up or have a significant other, pumpkin patch.
Or if you want to see who's the toughest out of all your friends, like you can go with all your buddies, and whoever screams the loudest has to buy drinks that night. That's how you should play that. Haunted houses are definitely fun, and Colorado has some pretty good ones. 13th floor. Everybody that I've talked to, even people that aren't from here, love the 13th floor. And the Asylum is one that I've been hearing a lot about. There's so many destitute places in Colorado that nothing else is around there, but like an old rickety house. Plus the Stanley
Hotel.
That's going to be that'll be my first one. The Stanley Hotel is something you can't go now, unfortunately, because of all the fires. Hopefully the snow helped them out. Shout out to the Colorado firefighters from all over the state because they've been having to pull them in from everywhere.
Including my good buddy Drew up there in Grand Lake.
I was wondering if he was fighting.
One of my buddies who beat leukemia is up in Grand Lake. Shout out to Drew.
Yeah, shout out Drew.
He's been battling so many fires up there, and he's doing a service to the state. And the snow was much needed, but it was fucking freezing.
It's so cold, and the snowplow drivers need to brush up on their skills because driving over here, I had to pull out some tricks from Gunnison, and that's only sad because this is like a quarter of the snow that Gunnison got this past weekend. But the Stanley Hotel, if it is still standing, which I hope it is, because if it burns down, it's already built on an Indian burial ground, so that's going to be a whole nother. I don't want to. Yeah, 2020 doesn't need that kind of ammo. Let's just leave it at what it's all been so far. But the Stanley Hotel, I've heard, is a lot of fun to go to if you believe in that sort of thing. I don't know. I'm not going to say that I don't believe in ghosts or spirits or anything like that. But if you're really into it, I'm sure you probably already have gone.
If you're not a native Colorado and you're listening to this, man, I would highly recommend Googling Stanley Hotel and just seeing all the creepy things that happen in there.
Well, if you're a fan of The Shining, that's the hotel that the book The Shining is based off of.
Yeah, and there's not Ghostbusters, but there was like a Ghost Hunters. I think had an episode there too. There's been so many creepy things. Haunted houses are fantastic. Stanley Hotel is great. Another pick of mine would be pumpkin patches and carnivals. Although I would put carnivals usually, but since everything with COVID, this would be the time to go. But it's tough right now with everything going on, so that's unfortunate. But you still go carve some pumpkins. I
know the story well enough. I'm not dealing with any kind of child cult or anything like that. So if you want to, go ahead, go get lost in a field of corn. Hopefully you don't stray from the path because you could get lost in there and nobody will be able to find you. What else do you like to do for Spooktober?
Oh man, I love it's flannel season. I love the flannels coming out. Got the flannels and jean jackets, man. It's that time of the year, a little bit more frosty, so it gets like I love getting all the better fits out there. Yep. Wearing jeans, getting back. Besides that, man, best thing about Spooktober is football. Football is fully in swing. College football, NFL, like every Sunday and every Saturday is filled watching football, no matter what. Yeah. And it starts in Spooktober.
And we're about to start getting action on Tuesday nights because the MAC is going to be coming back. Pac-12 After Dark is going to be coming back. So like I said last week, if you want to stay up late like you're trying to sneak watching some of the channels that you shouldn't, You can stay up instead and watch Pac-12 football. I don't know. If you're a defensive player, it might give you some nightmares. That's kind of scary because there's no defense played in the Pac-12. But there's a lot of good things. I love this time of year. Obviously, I was born in this time of year, and we were always playing football, so it's always going to have a special place in my heart.
And that's a good segue. Now we got to get into the Big Ten, man. Big Ten's back this week. Ton of great games. We'll go all college football as well because Clemson did have a little bit of an upset. Syracuse scored 21 points, which was kind of a little bit ridiculous.
That was, yeah.
They only beat them by 28, so that was a little crazy.
They hit the over, though.
Hit the over.
We thought they were going to hit the over by themselves. Syracuse gave them a little bit of help. Starting in the Big Ten, we'll start with your game of the week because it was tied.
It was a great game in the first half. Yeah. Absolutely fantastic game in the first half.
And then we remembered that Justin Fields is who he is.
And Justin Fields secured his place back in the Heisman race. There's a reason why he's probably the second best quarterback coming out of next year's draft.
Yeah.
There was at least 4 or 5 targeting penalties too. That was horrendous to watch. I mean it's one of those things, especially college football. Like targeting penalties cost more than what it worth. I mean, yes, you are trying to save people's save the health of different players, but like it's tough. You lose the whole player for the rest of the game and the next game if it's in the second half.
Yeah. It's a touch and go subject for me because I've had plenty of teammates that have gotten really bad concussions and then they're either not able to come back or it takes them a season in order to come back. Big Ten football is big boy football for a reason. It's the closest thing I think to NFL football, just the way all the teams play, and it's played in the cold, so you're gonna have to be tough. I don't know. The fact that you can challenge, or the fact that the booth can call a replay and then tell you to kick that kid out of the game, that's a little bit suspect to me. I think it should be a call made on the field, and if the referees deem it not a targeting penalty, then that's where it should be left. Justin Fields, I don't know if he has enough time to win the Heisman. Obviously, Big Ten is going to get some consideration in that area. But it's another story in this saga of Trevor Lawrence and Justin Fields. They've been neck and neck all the way, even back in high school. I think they were both in Georgia. And Trevor Lawrence was the number 1 rated pocket passing quarterback, even though he can run. He's proven that against Ohio State. In fact, he had the first touchdown last year in the semifinal. And then Justin Fields was the number 1 rated dual threat quarterback coming out of high school. Have taken different paths. Trevor Lawrence, I think, has been more successful early on, but now Justin Fields and Ryan Day are a match made in football heaven. That's if you could create, like if you were playing NCAA and you could create a player for Ryan Day's offense, you'd create Justin Fields. He's not the biggest guy, but he can move and he's pinpoint accurate. He missed 1 pass in his entire game.
He was a stud. The first time, like you said, you only missed X amount of passes, like
20 of 21.
He was putting up numbers, and if he continues that weekly, he's going to give Trevor Lawrence a run for his money at the Heisman. I mean, I think I don't know if he's going to be able to overtake Trevor. That's the one thing tough about it, but I think there's a good shot at him possibly doing that.
Yeah, and I'll give Nebraska a little bit of credit. I like Scott Frost. He was the coach of UCF when they went on their crazy run and beat Auburn in the bowl game. And he had a quote saying Ryan Day came out and apologized for running up the score, and his quote was, "Well, if we wanted the score to be different, we got to play better." That's a football guy, right there. So shout out to Coach Frost. I think Nebraska is better than they have been in the past. I don't think they're completely back yet, obviously, because they used to be going 24-0 through 2 seasons, but now they are getting back to where they should be. So I'll give Nebraska a little bit of credit for that. I want to talk about Penn State because Penn State's probably the upset of the weekend, but I honestly don't know if that kid got the 2-point conversion. It's one of those plays where depending on who you're rooting for and where you look at it, it'll be different each time.
Very close. Michael Penix Jr., man, he stretched. Very gutsy play call by Indiana there. You're winning most of the game against Penn State. Penn State was able to come back. I mean, 2 instances this weekend where a running back scored a touchdown when each other just fell, and his team would have won the game. Both in the Indiana-Penn State game. Penn State got into the end zone, gave Indiana another chance to come back, and then that Falcons game, which we'll talk about later. Both instances where it's hard to tell a running back to stop, especially when he sees the end zone. But Penn State Penn State is no longer have a chance to Final Four 100%. Like if they are able to win out and still go back to the 8 seed where they were, they're not going to be able to get in the Final Four. Yeah. just because like it's going to be a tough schedule. Losing to Indiana. Indiana is now ranked, so I respect that. Like one of our good friends who will be on the pod in 2 weeks for the Masters.
Big golf guy.
Big golf guy. He's a former Indiana grad, and he was losing his fucking mind, man. I was excited for him because I like seeing underdogs, and I don't believe Penn State is as good anymore, especially without Trace McSorley.
Trace McSorley.
And Saquon Barkley. So, like, I don't know.
They also don't have Deshaun. They don't have KJ.
They have so many weapons that are gone.
They're in a rebuilding phase right now.
In Indiana, man, maybe they'll shock some people. Who knows?
This is a
momentum game. They had a great year last year, and beating Penn State first week back, that's huge.
This is kind of Indiana was rebuilding for a long time, and this is a game. I don't know if they'll go on a crazy run, but this is a game that they deserve to win after losing so many close games last year. They've been like right there for 3 or 4 years in a row, and now seeing them break through against Penn State. I do like Penn State. I do like James Franklin, so I was a little bit disappointed in the way that they ended up playing. Good on them for coming back and making it a game because it really shouldn't have been a one-score game. Honestly, with the amount of mistakes that they made, and Indiana you could tell Indiana, it's like, I think this is what Clemson ran into a little bit with Syracuse. You're going to get everybody's best shot when the underdog is always going to try and outtake and they call them trap games for a reason, because when you are the big dog, or you at least assume that you're the big dog on campus, you're always going to be looking to fight the other big dogs, and you got to watch out because some of these guys, I mean, anything can happen on any given Saturday. Especially, like, college football is the dumbest sport to bet on. I'm sorry, Barstool. I know that you guys make your living off of betting, but
college football.
I mean, I don't even want to be a college football coach because you have to put your career in the hands of 18 to 23-year-olds. I don't want to bet on 18 to 23-year-olds being able to do what they should do all the time. So, congrats to Indiana. I think Penn State will be able to come back. Best thing they can do now is play spoiler and make sure that nobody in the Big Ten makes it to the college football playoff because they play Ohio State in 2 weeks.
Yeah, their best chance is to win out and have Ohio State fall and them, or actually, honestly, Ohio State to beat Ohio State, then Ohio State to go on a run and not lose a game as well, because that will help Penn State's chance into the Final Four. But unless they have to win out completely, and they have to have Ohio State win out besides losing to Penn State for them to make the Final Four.
They actually play on Saturday. Ohio State and Penn State is this Saturday. So I think that kind of plays into the outcome of the last game too, because they were obviously
looking ahead,
waiting for. I think they go. I don't know if they play at home. Yeah, they do. So they were waiting for Ohio State to come into Happy Valley, and they ended up, not taking Indiana as seriously as they should have, and everything happens for a reason, I guess. But where do you want to go next? Because
let's stay in the Big Ten.
Yeah, no, we'll stay in the Big Ten. But do you want to go Michigan, Minnesota, or do you want to talk about?
I want to talk about Mel Tucker and the shithole Michigan State is, baby. Man, Mel Tucker. If you aren't living in a hole and you're not from Colorado, Mel Tucker was the coach at CU. He was a CU as in University of Colorado, and I don't necessarily have a college football team just because my school I went to in college didn't have a team, and we are a basketball school, so I kind of take CU as my own just because my two older brothers went there. But Mel Tucker left CU in the offseason after saying he was going to stay. He was only there for 1 year. He had this whole thing. He told the boosters and told all these recruits that he was staying and blah, blah, blah. He goes to Michigan State and absolute shits the bed his first game back, and I love to see it, man. They played fucking Rutgers.
They lost to Craig Schiano. And if you know anything about Craig Schiano's history, you know that's not good. Do yourselves a favor and look up Schiano Man. The Barstool, Pardon My Take, made a song. They parody Piano Man and make it Schiano Man. It's a good song because he's one of the worst coaches of all time. And Michigan State, I mean, I guess Mel Tucker. You can now say that he's one of the worst coaches of all time too. That was just 7 turnovers. You can't come back from that, even if you are. So I think Rutgers is better than they have been, but they're not good. And I wouldn't classify them as a team who should be beating anybody in the Big Ten. I think they should be.
They lost. I think it was 29 or something ridiculous, like straight Big Ten games. They haven't won a Big Ten game in probably 3 years. Yeah. And they upset Michigan State.
It was a Big Ten road game they hadn't won in 3 calendar years.
3 calendar years. Something stupid like that. And you're telling me Michigan State, this cherished program, it's basketball school, not a football school, cherished program, whatever it may be, and you bring in this new coach who has all this hype around him, you can't beat Rutgers? Kick rocks, man. Yeah. Mel Tucker ain't going to do nothing, man. I'm glad he's out of CU.
No, honestly, it's probably going to be way better for CU. I don't remember who their coach is now, but it couldn't be any worse than what they had with Mel Tucker. They should have been. They had Laviska Shenault and they had Montez, and I don't think he wasn't the coach when they had Lufau, but they have like talent. No, it's not like CU shouldn't be competing for a Pac-12
We were ranked a few years back. I mean, I'm not going to say we, but CU was ranked a few years back, and like they were on the cusp of being something in the Pac-12. And then Mel Tucker comes in and just absolute shits the bed. I'm glad he's gone, man. Finally, CU maybe will have a little more promise. They saw Mel Tucker just lose his mind and then lose. Nebraska also lost, which also helps CU fans out. But I'm glad Mel Tucker's gone. CU football comes back, I think, next week or 2 weeks or whatever it may be.
Yeah, I don't think
it's this week, but either way, like I'm glad he lost, and I'm glad. I like Michigan State basketball because I love Tom Izzo, but Michigan State football can kick rocks.
Yeah, that's how bad does that look on the athletic director? Because you fire one of Saban's disciples who got you to the college football playoff before. And now you can't even beat Rutgers. This is
ridiculous,
yeah,
especially Rutgers.
Rutgers at home,
especially Rutgers, man. Like I know we're disrespecting Rutgers, but you're
I don't even know at your wrestling school.
You're not. You're a school.
You're
not a competitive sports school.
They're good at wrestling because New Jersey, for whatever reason, loves wrestling. But other than that, I wouldn't classify them as anything else. They might be a good academic institution, but who cares about academics? I guess, right?
Yeah.
What do you think about Michigan? They did beat Minnesota. Do you buy into the hype now, or do you?
I'm gonna hold off on that. They did dominate Minnesota. Like the final score was 49-24, so the game looked like it was out. I didn't get a chance to watch that too much, but the game did look out of hand. It's one of those things where like Michigan has to go undefeated. Mm-hmm. And that's a big what if because that team down south plays you play at the end of the year. And Ohio State, Michigan, if they went out and play Ohio State at the end of the year. Maybe they'll have a shot at the Final Four, but you got to beat the Ohio other team.
Yeah, and it's a couple of things because Minnesota they had a crazy year last year, but their defense is not as good as they were because they had a lot of guys get drafted. Mm-hmm. Antoine Winfield, we'll talk about him later because the Tampa Bay Buccaneers are something. They're starting to become scary. Mm-hmm. They're starting to be a little bit more on my radar, but he's gone. And PJ Fleck's a great coach, and I think that he's a great man for everything that he did. With Casey O'Brien last year, that's the holder's name. I found the post that I made about it, so I'll give him the recognition of saying his name. But it was Michigan always comes out hot. Michigan always starts off like 2-3-4-0 against Jim Harbaugh. They end up losing their last games of the season by a lot to a little. They always fall apart towards the end of the season. So I think it was a little bit of Michigan being ready because they always are ready to play early on, and Minnesota just doesn't have the defense to stack up to what Michigan had on offense. I didn't really watch this game either. I was watching the North Carolina NC State game more, but this was somewhat what I expected. I thought they would keep it more of a 1 score to 10 point game, but I don't think Michigan's legit. I don't take them seriously. The only other team I take seriously right now in the Big Ten is Wisconsin.
Yeah, Wisconsin.
They look good. I mean, they played against Illinois, and Illinois, they're another just a school. They don't have
anything. Illinois decent at basketball, but besides that,
no. They're not great at anything. In Wisconsin,
they do have Lovie Smith, though.
Yeah,
so
they do have Lovie Smith. They did upset. Who was it? I can't remember who they upset last year. It might have been Wisconsin, or it was Northwestern. Northwestern was on a crazy. They were undefeated and got upset by Illinois last year. So there's a lot of promise there, and Lovie Smith being a former NFL coach will help out. Graham Mertz is a sleeper in the Heisman race right now because he was also 20 of 21, 248 and 5 touchdowns. It'll be good for the Big Ten quarterbacks to all of them play well because then that elevates them in all of the postseason award standings. Mm-hmm. I don't think Wisconsin can beat Ohio State. They've been that team that everybody says they're going to beat Ohio State, but they never are able to pull it off. So I think they did look good, and they'll be able to beat a lot of other teams that they play, and whoever they play in the bowl game, they'll probably be able to handle pretty well. But they're not going to beat Ohio State, and I don't think that they're going to be in the playoffs just because they're not going to go undefeated. They play Nebraska or Michigan in 2 weeks.
That would be a great game.
And they actually don't play Ohio State, so the only time that they would play Ohio State would be in the Big Ten Championship.
Which is very likely. Still very likely. Maybe they do go undefeated as well. Like you said, they play Michigan. If they knock off Michigan, they'll be easily top 10.
They're ninth right now.
Ninth right now, so that'll even get them closer to the top 4.
Yep.
So if they are able to knock Ohio State, maybe they go and they run the table, they could be a Final Four team. But you have to. I mean, I didn't know a lot about Mertz, but I feel like he's definitely elevating his draft stock.
Mm-hmm.
It's going to be tough. Only 8 games as well for him. But I still don't think he's on the level of Trevor Lawrence or Justin Fields.
No.
It's still going to take time. Maybe he's in that 3rd to 4th range with Mac Jones.
Mm-hmm.
So that and Travis Etienne with Clemson. So like he has to have ungodly numbers to be a Heisman winner.
He would have to throw like 50 touchdowns in an 8-game season, which doesn't.
Very Joe Burrow-esque.
It would have to be a Joe Burrow season, but.
I think what helped Joe Burrow out last year was that he beat 9 of like the top 16 ranked teams at the end of the season. Elsewhere in college football, like we said, Clemson a little bit disappointing going up against Syracuse, but I think Syracuse was up for that game, and Clemson they played Notre Dame in 2 weeks, so they had a couple really soft weeks before they played them. So I think it was a case of Dabo not really getting his guys ready to play. And then Syracuse just wanted to play a spoiler for that one. And they kind of did, because if you took the 46.5-point spread, you're pretty pissed off right now.
Yeah, considering what Clemson did the previous week, going into Georgia Tech and winning 73-7, and this week only winning 47-21. I mean, take this with a grain of salt, because Clemson did dominate them in every fashion, but we just thought it'd be a lot worse.
Yeah, and Trevor Lawrence, it's out of character for him. He did throw almost 300 yards, but he was 27 of 43. What the hell? He's under 70% completion percentage. I didn't know.
One pass.
Yeah, I didn't know that he could go less than 70% completion percentage. But I think that they'll bounce back. I'm not worried about Clemson. I still think they're going to win out, dominate the ACC, and be probably the top seed in the college football playoff. Yeah, I don't. We'll talk about Alabama because now they lost Waddle. Waddle's going to be out for the year.
Tough loss. He was definitely probably the number 1 receiver to be taken next year. That hurts him. That's going to hurt them a lot. Before we get into the recap of that game, though, I want to give a shout out to Alabama's punter, Charlie Scott, a great friend of mine and a former teammate of both Jimmy and mine. He was a punter in Air Force, and now he's a punter at Bama, man. If you're listening, brother, I miss you, man. It's great to see you doing well. And
you look thick, Chuck. You look thick.
He's the starting punter for the number 2 team in the country, and that brings chills to my mind because I know Charlie personally, and he's such a great guy on and off the field, and I couldn't be happier for him. I hope Alabama is able to win a ring just because I want to see Chuck get a ring, but it's going to be tough without Waddle, though. Mac Jones, maybe he'll have a fall off, though. Mac Jones without Jalen Waddle out there. He still has Damian Harris, though. Probably Devontae Smith. There's a ton of studs, though, that Alabama still has.
Yeah, Alabama can just now bring one of their practice squad guys that was also a 5-star recruit from wherever he's from. I wanted to say that Nick Saban also gave Charlie a shout out. He did say that he was going to be consistent and he knew that he was going to put the ball where it needed to be because he was JK's little brother. So shout out to the Scott family. Both of you guys know how to punt the ball very well. So that was good for them. Alabama's defense now not having a guy like Waddle who can score from anywhere on the field, that's something that is going to be, I think, that's going to affect everything. Now they're going to have to rely on Charlie being able to put the defense into a better situation because if you give the opposition any other chance now, you're not going to be able to put up these 60, 70-point scores.
I trust Chuck.
No, I trust him too, but now you're just not relying. You could rely on your offense and you could rely on them to outscore anybody. I think I do think that they could have scored 100 points if they wanted to with all their weapons. And now you're just going to have to rely on those other sides of the ball. You're going to have to make sure your defense figures out what the hell's going on with them because it's honestly kind of upsetting that Alabama doesn't have as good of a defense as they've had in the past.
Oh, they're known for their great defense.
Yeah, they're used to running. They're used like Trent Richardson, Derrick Henry. You run the ball, you play good defense, and every now and again, AJ McCarron will throw a touchdown pass. Now you're going to have to kind of go back to that. You're not going to be able to rely on 150-yard receivings from 2 of your receivers and Mac Jones being able to throw 400 yards because it's just not going to happen.
Yeah, they're going to have to rely. Defense is going to have to get together and play a lot better. I mean, I guess the other SEC schools, it's going to be. I mean, playing Auburn at the end of the year is always going to be tough, but they just beat Georgia, like I said, dominated Georgia, so they're going to have to run the table, and they're easily going to be the 2 seed.
Yeah, I don't really see. There's not anybody Auburn just because it's a
rivalry game,
and it's a big rivalry game, and they always seem to play each other close. I was rooting for Auburn last year because I didn't want Alabama to be the one-loss team that made it into the playoff. But they play Mississippi State, LSU, Kentucky, and Arkansas other than Auburn. So that's the one game that you kind of got to worry about with the Iron Bowl. But everybody else, I think that we have our 1 and 2 set pretty much. Barring some sort of meltdown by either team, it's going to be Clemson, Alabama, and then 3 and 4 kind of up for debate. Notre Dame beat the crap out of Pittsburgh. It's Pittsburgh. Come on now.
And they have to play Clemson in 2 weeks. That's going to knock them back. If Notre Dame upsets Clemson, then there's going to be chaos. But that's a conversation to have in a few weeks from now. But Notre Dame has to beat Clemson to make the Final Four. If they don't beat Clemson, they're out. I think a Big Ten school will be there, and then you got to look at. Do you put in another SEC school? Is it a Big 12 school like Oklahoma State get in? Who they just
Cincinnati. BYU is 6-0. And they have a possible Heisman contender. Yeah, there's a lot that still could happen.
3 and 4 are up for grabs, 100%.
Yeah, and it could be 3 and 4 could be 1 to 2 lost teams depending on how everything else finishes out. I think now with Penn State, they dropped all the way down to 18 after that loss last week to Indiana. One behind Indiana. That was going to be something. I already have my problems with the rankings. Oklahoma State should not be behind Georgia, who's 3-1. I don't care. Oklahoma State's undefeated. Who cares? The Big 12 doesn't play as good a defense, and it doesn't have as good a competition as the SEC. But there's BYU. I think could be a good story. People are sleeping on Cincinnati. Cincinnati's a pretty good team. They're pretty athletic, and these teams, it's like UCF when they played Auburn. These aren't teams that have guys that come in for their 2 years and then go to the draft. These are seniors, and they want to build a foundation. They want to leave their program in a better spot. So I think that they have a lot to play for, and I do think that they're going to be a sleeper by the time the selection Sunday comes. If they are undefeated and if they win their conference championship, and then we put in a 1 to 2 loss Big Ten team outside of the conference champion in the top 4, I'm going to watch the college football playoff because I can't stop myself. But I would be very disappointed in the selection committee if that's what happens.
Yeah, selection committee has a lot to they're gonna have to deal with. It'll be it's going to be very interesting how it all plays out and going forward, because college football, like we said, it's very unable to.
You can't
predict it. Unpredictable. It's very unpredictable. That's the word. I can't think of the fucking word. Unpredictable to bet on, and unpredictable to see what exactly is all going on. It's going to be a great end of the year, though. I'm glad Pac-12 is coming back, because Pac-12 at dark is always fun to watch, and I can't wait.
Pac-12 after dark, that is fun because they score a lot of points. Like we said, no defense. Mm-hmm. So if you're a former defender, sorry, don't watch those games. Yeah, there's not really too much else to talk about. North Carolina had a good bounce back win against NC State, who was also ranked in the top 25 when they played. So good for them. I really like Mac Brown, and I like Howell, the quarterback there. So they had a good bounce back game.
Still a basketball school. Still a basketball school.
Yeah, when you're
college basketball comes back 30 days too, baby. Oh baby, I can't wait. But yeah, North Carolina's still a basketball school. They're not gonna, they have to run the table and beat Clemson, and that's probably not gonna happen.
No, I don't think they're ready to beat Clemson. Maybe next year when Trevor Lawrence is in the NFL and Sam Howell's going to be a junior.
If he's in the NFL, that's the only if too.
If your team,
I don't know if you want to play for the Jets.
Yeah, if your bet plays out and the Jets go 0-16. By the way, I'm going to start retweeting my brother. The last 3 weeks that they've lost, my brother Dom is a huge Jets fan, and he's been tweeting out "Fire Adam Gase," and I'm going to like and retweet it, see if it happens, because it should have happened by now. This is absolutely ridiculous. But yeah, if your bet comes true and Jets go 0-16, I'd stay in school. I'd probably look for a master's or.
Bring me my money, baby. Jets going 0-16. Count it, baby. It's gonna happen. But yeah, well, that's a good segue. Now, is there anything else? Any other college football games next week? Anything else that catches your eye?
Penn State, Ohio State's a big matchup. Yep. That'll be something to watch out for. Other than that, Colorado State will come back. They're playing Fresno week 1. Georgia and Memphis, Cincinnati will be a good game. That's an AAC game. Memphis was actually the team that they beat in the conference championship game last year, so that'll be fun to watch. Kansas State's surprising too. I'll talk about that in my beats of the week, but I think Kansas State is a lot better than people were thinking before they went into the season.
Yeah, they also played Kansas last week, but because Kansas is still a basketball school, so.
Yeah, well, they did beat Oklahoma. They beat Oklahoma 38-35, so they have a signature win already, and they play Oklahoma State in a couple weeks. So like I said with Penn State wanting to play spoiler, Kansas State's going to want to play spoiler and try and knock out everybody else to get into the college football.
Yeah, there's not as many top 25 matchups against each other, but there should be a lot of great games on college football.
The bowl season is going to be crazy because you're going to get a lot of these teams who haven't played each other that normally do, and it's going to actually be for something now. Because winning a bowl game is huge for the school because you get money, and then the players obviously want to get the swag bags and be able to say that you won a bowl game. So that's going to be interesting once that comes around. But that's basically it for college football. Keep an eye on some of these sleeper teams, and the games have been absolutely incredible. There's been a lot of close games and a lot of performances that have just been out of this world.
A lot of fun things to bet on too, man. There's a lot of good things. Like I said, college football is unpredictable.
It's tough to bet on.
But why not throw your money at some of the favorites, especially?
Yeah, if you have the money to spare, might as well. It's like shooting craps. You can catch a hot streak. Just know when to walk away from the table when your heater is over.
Hold them, know when to fold them.
Yeah.
Let's get in the NFL now because it was a big week. We'll start with my team, Denver Broncos. I was able to go to the game a Mile High on Sunday. If you watched on TV, yes, it was as cold as it looked. My ass was freezing. I had about 10 layers on, man, but. I was willing to get a frostbite because like I was tweeting on our page at FEOTV Pod on Twitter and Instagram.
Follow us.
I was literally like, this is the first live sporting event I have been to since February, and that was a college basketball game at my school at Grand Canyon University. Like it's been a long time since I've been able to go to a live sporting event game, and it was worth it. Whether we got our asses kicked or we would have won or whatever it may have been, and I froze my ass off, but god damn, it was so good to have my butt sit in a seat, hear all the songs that are played on stadium.
Concessions open?
Concessions were open. I had myself a little hot cocoa with a little bit of a little spiked hot cocoa, a little extra, but because my team was losing, had to help the.
You gotta ease the pain a little.
Ease the pain a little bit, but man, it was so awesome, man. I gotta give a shout out to all the workers, especially at Mile High, and all the workers around all these stadiums, especially in the NFL and college football, because they're risking their lives at the same time, like. They're putting on a great job making sure everyone's safe as much as possible, making sure people are still able to see games. And I although it was a loss, I couldn't have been happier to be there, man. It was so much fun.
Yeah, and it wasn't. I'll give you this. I've been hard on the Broncos because I think that there's a lot. If you listen to the sports radio in Denver, there's a few people that think that they're still Super Bowl bound and stuff like that. They're not Super Bowl bound. I don't know. I think it's between you and the Raiders right now for second in the division. But they played better than I thought they were going to. They had a lot of bad mistakes that they need to fix, but they did hold. I mean, if you look just at the little snip that they put on ESPN, all the top performers are Broncos players on offense.
We outrushed them. Mm-hmm. We outpassed them. The Chiefs are.
Melvin Gordon was drunk and he still outrushed them.
Okay, we're not going to talk about Melvin Gordon.
You have to now. He's your starter.
God, oh my God. But the Chiefs are 0 for 9 on third down. It's the first time a team has, or it was the most points a team has won by and going or second most, behind the Giants way back when, but second most a team has ever won by not converting a third down. Yeah. Our defense was much improved. It's just we made mistakes. We gave the Chiefs 2 touchdowns in the first half, and without their offense scoring, we held Mahomes decently in check, and he did not have as big a game as he could have, and that's the way we would have won that game. The kick return touchdown was ridiculous. McManus should have kicked that out of the end zone. Had no shot at that even happening, especially this weather.
Yeah, and by the way, you're more likely to catch a foul ball at an MLB game than see a kick return for a touchdown. The percentages work out to where you could probably get struck by lightning.
And then the pick six, I'll give Locke a little bit of credit because he they were throwing pressure at him all night in the offensive line besides the left tackle, 72. I'm still not saying your name to the end of the year, but we'll get to, maybe eventually I'll get to say your name, but he has been playing a lot better, but the right side still has a lot of work. Dotson
isn't the problem. It's your interior. It's Cush, and Glasgow is really not the problem. It's Cush and it's Reisner. Yeah. Reisner's in a little bit of a sophomore slump. And Cush,
he's been injured too. I'll give him a little help there too. Our offensive line is very young, and we have to get experience. Cushenberry, a rookie center, is very, very tough in any position.
I mean, I played center, so I know that you're the one setting the protections. You're the one that's kind of got to know everything, and then you're also like he played Vita Vea and I think Cameron Hayward back-to-back weeks. Yeah. That's tough. And then you played Chris Jones this week. Chris Jones is an animal. They have Frank Clark. Like the Chiefs' defense isn't good, but they've got some good players. Tyrann Mathieu, Dirty Dan Sorensen. Yeah, he's the one who had the pick six, and he knocked out
all over the field. Also, before I talk about the pick, Sorensen should have been ejected before that. Yeah. Let's put that out clearly. He had a terrible, dirty hit on Philip Lindsay. Philip Lindsay is the best running back caller Denver Broncos has. I don't want to hear shit about Melvin Gordon. He fumbles the ball. Philip Lindsay hasn't fumbled the ball in 3 seasons. 3 seasons. Melvin Gordon's played 4 games, and he's had fucking 4 fumbles.
I was very surprised that he held on to that ball because that was, I was so glad that the trainers did pull him out and they took his helmet away from him because you knew there was something not. He went out for a split second. I think he didn't go out completely, but there was a second where his lights were out and then they came back on and you could tell he was not there.
Philip Lindsay is a dog, man. I love watching him run the ball and the only reason why I have this jersey, it's a 30 jersey, and it's tough wearing a 30 Broncos jersey. It's blue especially because it's Terrell Davis. But Philip Lindsay deserves that number, deserves the mantra of the best running back Denver Broncos has because he's a hometown kid. He runs with passion. He doesn't fumble the ball. Hopefully he's able to heal back because he is much needed. Melvin Gordon, like I said, man, you can take the player out of San Diego, but you can't take the San Diego out of the player. Melvin Gordon is a Charger for life. And that's why he sucks right now. That's why he's bad.
Yeah, I agree that Philip Lindsay.
He got gifted a touchdown at the end of the game just because Drew Lock was finally finding Noah Fant at the end of the game, which was also ridiculous. Noah Fant didn't get any touches until the 4th quarter. Oh my God, there's a lot of bad things. I don't blame Fangio for the offensive struggles because Shermer needs to get his shit together.
I blame Fangio for the bad tackling on the first touchdown.
The first touchdown, yeah, I'll give him that, but the defense played great besides that.
Yeah. Shelby Harris, you gotta keep Shelby Harris. You gotta keep Purcell. You got a good interior.
Purcell's now out for the year as well. He just tore his ACL, so he's done. So there's another injury. At least we had Bouye back. Alexander Johnson had a decent game. Josie Jewell did decently locking down Kelsey. Kelsey only had, I think it was 25 yards or something like that.
He had 1 catch in the first quarter, and it was a screen that honestly should have been picked. I was surprised that he got that ball. No, there was a lot of good
the score was depicted just because the score did not depict how the game went. The Broncos were a lot closer in this game. Like we said, it started off I knew we were losing this game after McManus missed the extra point. I was like, well, we can't even tie this game. This is already chalked. This is already going to be bad. I enjoyed the hell out of myself just because it was a live game, but I knew after we missed the extra point, it was nothing but downhill.
No, and it'll be interesting moving forward because Le'Veon looked pretty good in that offense. He didn't really play as much as
Edwards-Helaire looked fantastic too.
I think Clyde has a good shot at Offensive Rookie of the Year. He's been pretty incredible. It's weird that that's only his 2nd rushing touchdown of the season. That's his first one since the opener. But he's a dog. All the LSU offensive guys have looked really good. Yeah. Justin Jefferson's probably the best rookie receiver. I'm gonna throw a little shade at Jerry Jeudy because he had a false start penalty. You're a receiver. You're looking at the ball. You're looking at the ball. Don't move.
Should never happen as a receiver.
And so
there's a lot to grow on. These next 4 weeks are the biggest weeks of the season for the Broncos. We play Chargers next week, which is at home, which is a very winnable game in my opinion, because the Chargers are a team known to lose games. Then you play the Falcons. They're a shit show.
They're a team that's known to lose games.
Then we play the Raiders on the road. That's going to be a very tough game. And then we play Dolphins. These 4 weeks, we could easily get back to 2-2. You got to take it 1 week at a time, but you can easily get back to 2-2. You just got to beat the Chargers. The Falcons, we should be better than the Falcons. Let's just say that.
If you can't beat the Falcons, you don't deserve
And then you got to go to Oakland, play them, and then Dolphins. So this is easily a week weeks in a row where we could get back to 500 and build upon the rest of the year and show that we could compete for a wild card. We're not Super Bowl contenders. We showed that last week, but we're a playoff contender still. So I'm hoping, especially this week, starts off beating not San Diego, but Los Angeles Chargers.
Yeah.
If we're able to beat them, I think that will give us momentum going into the next 3 weeks, and then we can get back to 500, and then we just got to battle our way into the last wildcard spot. Because there is an extra wildcard spot this year, so it might help us.
And the Chargers are famous for losing games in
and they barely beat Jacksonville. I know it was 39-29, but Jacksonville was up 29-14. It was at one point. They were winning that game.
Well, now you gotta worry because Phil Rivers will make mistakes to lose games. Justin Herbert doesn't look like, because I was talking to my dad before when we were going to the gym, and I said the Chargers like to lose games in Denver. And Justin Herbert's never been in this situation, so he probably doesn't give a shit what the history is of the Chargers in Denver. So that'll be interesting, and he's continued to make me eat my words. He's pretty damn good.
He's been good.
Pretty damn good. So
I'm expecting Drew Lock to have a better game. Last week he was under a lot of pressure. The Chiefs are throwing everybody at him. And
he doesn't play the Chiefs well. I think it's the hometown team thing
it's something
with him.
about that. So hopefully he's able to rebound. I still believe in Drew Lock. The only reason why the Broncos should draft a quarterback is if we lose the rest of our games and the Jets win 2 games and we'll get the number 1 pick. I don't think we draft a quarterback in the first round next year. There isn't another one that should be drafted outside of Justin Fields and Trevor Lawrence. And
there's that one guy from North Dakota State, but I can't remember his name.
Either way, that's still a tough one to pick on. But either way, you're not drafting a quarterback in the first round, so you hope Drew Lock is able to get his stuff together. But because you're not the worst team in the NFL. You're not.
No,
the Jets still suck.
You need to bolster the offensive line.
Yep.
And
especially the right tackle.
Right tackle. And as surprised as I am to say this, you probably got to sign 72.
You do.
It sucks. He puts you in the worst situation possible because you did pick up his 5th-year option as a first-round pick. I think with good reason. Going into this season, I didn't think he was going to be I didn't think that he was going to earn his second contract in the NFL at all. But he has. I think if we don't sign him, somebody else will, and that's bad for the program.
He has played a lot better this year. I give him a lot more respect and say his name at the end of the year because he has to play a full 16-game season. But I am going to give him love because Drew Lock has been able to. His jersey was dirty though. I am, but that's not on 72. The middle and the right side still is not where it should be.
Yeah.
So I'm not going to blame 72 for that because there hasn't been many blindside hits. They've all mostly been in Drew's face. And he was on the ground a lot, so I'm not going to blame 72 for that.
Yeah, and the pressure that came when he got hurt against the Steelers was from the right side too. Yeah. So I'll agree with you there. Let's transition. We talked about your team. It was disappointing. You guys had some good things to go on, though.
You have a lot of things.
It's the same thing. 37-34. The Browns end up winning on not a last-second touchdown, but pretty much they gave them 11 seconds to get the ball back and see if they could throw up a prayer. Almost, they should have had it. AJ Green. I can't. I don't want to. I know my grandma's going to listen to this, so I'm not going to say what I want to say. All I'm going to say.
I'll say it for you. AJ Green, you suck. The Bengals need to draft a wide receiver next year.
If you don't want to be here, then leave. Mm-hmm. Demand a trade. I don't give a shit. Same with Carlos Dunlap. If you don't want to be here, if you don't want to be a part of the growing pains that comes with having to rebuild a franchise from the ground up, you have a quarterback now. It's proven. He has 5 300-yard passing games. He had 406 yards, 3 touchdowns this past game.
He's one of the best fantasy football quarterbacks you can have right now.
And he's a dog. I love that he's the quarterback of the Bengals. And they had 3 backup offensive linemen in yesterday, and he didn't get hit as much as he has been. So there is some improvement there too. I think Mixon's a little bit banged up. Giovanni Bernard's been really good. I'm glad that he's still around. And T. Higgins, Joe Burrow is going to be a pretty deadly connection.
Yeah, no. I'd be very excited if I was a Bengals fan.
Warmers, this is where an ad would go if we had a sponsor. Don't worry, we don't have anything to promote right now. But I did want to give a chance while we're figuring out some technical difficulties on the episode to remind you that there is actually, to inform you that there's a scholarship fund for Coach Barron, and there's a GoFundMe. We put the link to the GoFundMe in the description. If you can, please donate. They are trying to raise money so that this can become a perpetual thing and give to one wrestler who embodied strength and honor just like Coach Barron did. So please, if you can donate to the GoFundMe, please share it to anybody that you think would be interested. And now let's get back to the episode.
Yeah, so that was, we talked about both our teams. We had a little bit of a discussion about that. So, if you know us at all, you knew this wasn't going to go off without a hitch. So we changed the camera angle a little bit.
Yeah, we had a little bit of minor adjustment.
Apparently you have to charge stuff.
And sorry for the quick little ad read from the Unhinged SN Network. Don't forget to follow us on everything on there.
By the way, Unhinged runs 24 hours a day. So anytime that you want to listen to some sports content, there's great shows all across the network. And we've been really happy working with them so far. But let's get into the pick'em because we basically we're not doing the pick'em yet.
Not pick'em yet.
We had a lot of other sports besides football this weekend too. We had the big UFC.
Big UFC card.
I was pretty upset with how that ended, but it went the way that it did. So
before we move on from football, we got to talk about most dominant team of the week as well. There was, like we said, we talked about our two main teams. A lot of great games going on. Atlanta blew another lead, which was ridiculous.
Los Angeles just beat the Bears too.
Absolutely murdered them, so maybe the Bears aren't for real. San Francisco demolished New England. Arizona, Seattle had a real barn burner on Sunday Night Football, one of the best games of the year.
Yeah, I think it's probably the best game of the year so far.
Green Bay finally came back together, and Dallas still sucks. I'm sorry, but so who do you have the most dominant team of the league? There's a lot to pick from here.
My most dominant team is 49ers. They went into Foxborough and put a absolute ass kicking on the Patriots. Sorry, J Dash, but you tweeted it. You miss football, or you miss hockey. I miss hockey too, just because my Bengals can't figure their stuff out. But 33-6, and that's I think probably the worst that Bill Belichick's been beaten in Foxborough.
Back-to-back Foxborough losses for the Patriots.
I don't know when the last time that happened. It was incredible. I didn't think that it was going to go that way. Might be time to maybe look at Jarrett Stidham. Cam Newton's not playing very well.
For the second time in his career, Cam Newton's career was derailed by the Denver Broncos.
That's true. Yeah.
Derailed by the Denver Broncos. Everything went downhill after he faces the Denver Broncos. But my most dominant team of the week, man. It's very tough to me because I was going to go San Francisco as well. I thought at the beginning of the week it would have been Buffalo, but they barely beat the Jets.
That was weird. That was
a very weird game. I think I'm going to go with the Packers. It's one of those games where Houston was game, and Deshaun Watson threw for 309 yards.
Yeah.
Aaron Rodgers didn't have Aaron Jones with him, so they were banged up.
Devontae Adams went off.
I'm gonna go with Packers there because Packers went into Houston and just dominated too. Seattle and Arizona, what a great game that was though, man. We'll talk about that more later on because I know one of Jimmy's plays of the week is that, but. What a game that was.
Yeah, thank you, Isaiah Simmons, for making me look like the smart one. When I was doing Center of Attention, when this podcast was known as Center of Attention, I did a live draft recap, and I was absolutely shocked and stunned that the Panthers didn't pick Isaiah Simmons at 6, and they went with Derek Brown, a D tackle out of Auburn. And I got into so many fights with because my argument is you can't win Super Bowls with just a dominant interior pass rush. That hasn't happened so far. And everybody brought up Ndamukong Suh and Aaron Donald. Those two guys haven't won Super Bowls. Isaiah Simmons is a guy you can win a Super Bowl with. He's all over the field, and if Arizona can find more ways to get him on the field, because I agree with one of the other podcasts that's on the network, High Low Sports. Shout out to you guys. You guys get a free shout out because you're part of the network. But they need to find a way to get him on the field. He's the best defensive player. He was the best defensive rookie in the draft. And if you watch him at Clemson, you know he can run with receivers. He can stuff the run like a linebacker. He's a true hybrid. I don't think that you can classify him as a safety or a corner or a linebacker or an edge rusher. He's just everything. He's a defensive player.
He was the best pure defender in the draft, but I don't know about overall just because Chase Young is an animal.
Yeah.
So that's the only argument I have there. But Isaiah Simmons is a stud. There's no doubt about that. We'll talk about football more as we pick them.
Football is going to be here for a long time. So.
Every week there's going to be football talk. Don't worry about that.
Yeah, now we get to talk about some UFC. We saw
fantastic card, absolutely fantastic card.
And we tweeted out congratulations to Khabib because he did end up hanging up the gloves and retiring. He said he promised his mom after his dad died that he wasn't going to continue fighting after he defended his title one time without him. And what a dominant performance! Like, if you watch that ending sequence, you see Gaethje kick him like a low leg kick, and he landed it. and then all of a sudden Khabib was on his back, and he was just I thought Gaethje would have the wrestling background to be able to deal with some of the pressure that Khabib had. I apologize. I'm very sorry.
Disrespect him.
I did. I disrespected him because I wanted the guy who went to Northern Colorado to win. I think I love the way Gaethje fights. He's my style of fighter because he's really just game for anything. You know, he'll put up and he did. He was a very class act when Khabib was on his knees and obviously very emotional for having won that fight after his dad died. He did come over and congratulate him and stayed after for his Octagon interview, even though it's probably one of the most disappointing nights of his career. But the whole card, top to bottom, was a little bit strange. But that was, I don't know, where do you put Khabib now in the rankings of greatest of all time? Because a lot of people go straight to Jon Jones. I tend to kind of agree with that because he did fight in a division where your night can get ended a little bit quicker than welterweight, or if you wanted to go with Demetrius Mighty Mouse Johnson when he was on his huge run. You don't have as much margin of error when you're fighting at light heavyweight. But Khabib, 29-0, only lost one round in his entire MMA career in the UFC. And that transition to the mounted triangle choke, pulling him back over, I'm sure your dad, who's a big jiu-jitsu fan, was just loving every single bit of that. That was absolutely incredible. Where do you put Khabib now in greatest fighter of all time?
I think he's either one or two. It's very tough for me to pick against him, especially with him only losing a single round.
Mm-hmm.
Jon Jones, man, Jon Jones is so much fun to watch. I think Khabib is sort of disrespected just because he's a wrestler and his wrestling game is the best in the world.
Yeah.
I would have loved to see him go against GSP just because I love GSP as a fighter. George St. Pierre and versus Khabib would have been fantastic, but I can't hate on him for hanging up the gloves. It's weird. This year we lost Cejudo, and now Khabib in the UFC is looking to fill both positions. It's going to be tough. I think he's the greatest lightweight of all time.
Mm-hmm.
I think there's no question about that. One thing that I did want to touch on that I think was very, very interesting was Daniel Cormier. I heard this from Khabib, and Khabib went on to text Daniel Cormier and say that earlier in the fight he was going to put him in an armbar. He decided that he did not. That the armbar was his dad's favorite move. He believed
the triangle choke.
The triangle choke was his dad's favorite move, and that he did not want to injure Gaethje, and he only wanted him to put him to sleep just because Gaethje said in the week coming up he was not going to tap. He did not want to hurt Gaethje for a significant amount of time. He only wanted to put him out, put him to sleep for 10 seconds and have him regain consciousness so that he can fight again. And I respect the hell out of that. He changed the move from the armbar to the
mounted triangle.
Mounted triangle, which was crazy to someone say that in a fight too. In a fight.
Yeah, and if you're a competitive grappler, you know how difficult that sequence was that he pulled off. That was a classy move by Khabib because sometimes you got to save guys from themselves. I think Gaethje probably would have let his arm snap and everything like that, and it would have been a totally different story. That referee, he should not be in that big of a moment anymore because that was terrible.
There was no Herb Dean, there was no Herzog, there wasn't a lot of
Gaethje tapped Khabib's head 4 times,
yeah.
And then yes, it's part of the game. People get choked out, but let that go a little bit longer. If you don't get oxygen to different parts of your brain could die. Mm-hmm. And Gaethje's, I don't know if he was tapped, because sometimes when you're getting choked out, your body just takes over, and it was probably just instinct. But that referee should be reprimanded. I don't think you should be refereeing a title fight anymore, and that needs to be significantly looked at, because there's a few other fights that were, like the Philip Haas fight, he was able to land 4 or 5 very unnecessary shots. It was an 18-second knockout, and he had 3 or 4 shots that were totally unnecessary. Could have very, very well ended Malkoun's career. So there's a lot.
There's a lot of questionable refereeing. That's just because I'm going to blame it on being in Abu Dhabi and it being not in the UFC Apex. Just because UFC has a great set of officials and they always can't travel. So I'm gonna give them a little bit of slack there. Maybe they put some young guys or whatever it may be just to do that out there as I fucking hit my mic. God damn it! But as just for the heck of it, put the referees out to get experience. But Khabib had a great career, man. it's sad to see him go. This lightweight division now. I had a little bit of back and forth with JFO, who also has a MMA podcast. So if you love listening to our MMA talk, be sure to go listen to him.
There's an hour full of just MMA.
Hour full of MMA talk on his network. We had a little bit of back and forth. Who do you think now challenges for that title? Because that division is still stacked from top to bottom.
Yeah, that was an interesting. I saw that going back and forth with him. I don't know who gets the next shot at lightweight because Tony's still there. Tony hasn't been able to fight for the undisputed championship yet. I think Gaethje. You could make the argument that Gaethje should get another shot to win the title. I don't know if he'd take it because he seems like the kind of guy that wouldn't want a title fight after he let's just say what it is. He got dominated on Saturday. So I don't know if he'd want to take that. Poirier. JFO wants Dan Hooker. I think he's a big Dan Hooker fan. What I think the UFC should do, none of the top 5 guys have a fight scheduled yet. Michael Chandler also muddies the water a little bit because he is a world-class fighter, and though he hasn't been in the UFC, everybody that knows of Michael Chandler knows that he's gonna make waves in this division. So I think you probably go, maybe you run back. I don't think you run back Gaethje Ferguson. Maybe go Ferguson and Michael Chandler. I think that might be a decent matchup for Michael Chandler's first fight in the UFC, and then you get Gaethje Poirier for the undisputed title because those are the last 2 guys that fought for it and lost it.
Yeah, I still think there are still good chance that they have Conor versus Poirier. I think that's still in the works, maybe in January, who knows, but everything always usually plays out because Conor is still technically retired. Who knows, whatever it may be, but that could possibly still happen. I hope they don't make that the title fight, but I have a feeling they might just because Dana might want to hype that fight up a little bit more, but I don't think it should be. I think Gaethje should be locked in for the next title shot, or be in at least the interim or the next title, like I did for Dominic Reyes, how he lost to Jon Jones, and then Jon Jones left. Dominic Reyes was put in the championship fight again, even though he lost. Yeah. I think you put Gaethje still in that title fight, and I think you have either the winner. I think you have the winner of Mike Chandler versus Ferguson face Gaethje, and then I think after that, the winner of the Poirier Conor McGregor fight then gets the next.
Yeah,
I think it takes its steps. I think Gaethje should get the undisputed chance to be the champion still because he did go on a tear. He just got derailed by
he ran into a buzzsaw. It happens. Yeah, I would say Poirier Gaethje is the most deserving because those are the last 2 guys to fight for the championship. Poirier did just beat Dan Hooker also in June, so he's come back and avenged his loss that he had against Nurmagomedov. So he's not coming off of a loss anymore. So I think that makes a little bit of sense. I don't know.
There's a lot of fun matchups.
Yeah.
Top to bottom, there's a lot of fun.
Lightweight stacked. I wanted to talk a little bit about who surprised you the most because I can think of a couple guys that surprised me, but who surprised you the most?
For me, I think it was a light heavyweight. I expected middleweight. I expected Robbie Whittaker to not have as strong as performance. I thought Cannonier was going to come out swinging on all cylinders, and he just did not have it at all. He did not have it at all. Robbie Whittaker dominated. My dumbass betted Cannonier to win, and I bet against nice guy Robbie, and that was a mistake. I think Robert Whittaker, he should be the next to fight Adesanya again. Give him another shot, and then I think you have our Cannonier versus Costa to get a chance back in the title for both of those. But Robbie Whittaker surprised me a lot. I expect Cannonier to win, but I thought it'd be a lot closer than what it was.
Yeah, Cannonier. They were talking about it. It's surprising he was a heavyweight, then dropped down to light heavyweight, and now he's a middleweight. That's crazy. He looks great. Like he should have been a middleweight the entire time. Whittaker did make up some ground because I said in the last episode that I didn't like the way that he lost to Stylebender. He didn't deal with the quick in and out karate striking that Stylebender has. He very well could have moved himself up into a rematch for the title. That did surprise me as well. I thought Cannonier was going to win, and it ended up going a completely different way. Unanimous decision, and it was not close, especially in the second and third round. First round was iffy. You kind of could have given it to either one, but the second and third round, Robert Whittaker absolutely dominated, and Cannonier, it was a good story. Like, he did go on a pretty good run, and he'll probably be around the title picture for a while, but that was
there's still another level that you have to step up. There's still a difference in class when you're going for a UFC title. My biggest surprise was Philip Haas, because I think that was his second fight in the UFC, or maybe his UFC debut after being on looking for a contender series,
which comes back next week, by the way.
So that was pretty good. But I will say that Tai Tuivasa knocking out Stefan Struve at 4:59 of the first round. I like Tai Tuivasa. I listened to him on Brendan Schaub's podcast when he and I can't remember the other guy that he was with, but that was pretty impressive. I didn't realize Stefan Struve was still fighting. I thought that he should have hung it up a while ago after he had his heart problems, and he doesn't fight Samoans or Australians well at all. Because if you remember Mark Hunt has a great walk-off KO against him, and now Tuivasa. That was, if you watch that fight, it looked like it looked like something out of the UFC video game, because Stefan Struve is 6'9", 6'10", maybe
6'9".
So and Tai Tuivasa is like 5'10", and so he's punching all the way over his head, and he still had knockout power. So Tai Tuivasa, I think, moved himself up.
He won me a lot of money too, because I bet heavily on Tuivasa. I was like, why the hell is Stefan Struve in this still in the UFC? And I bet Tuivasa, and he got me some money, baby.
I'm not going to say that Tuivasa is going to be able to compete for a championship, because I don't see him.
The heavyweight division is tough to.
Yeah, because the top in the heavyweight division right now is Miocic and Ngannou, Curtis Blades, and then Rosenstruck. Maybe he fights. No, there's somebody else who's going to fight Rosenstruck. But I think now you can maybe move them up. Maybe you give the two heavyweights that won, Volkov and Tuivasa, maybe that could be a fight night main event, and kind of decide who's going to move up, take that next step into the top 5. But that was, overall, it was weird because they had it. We did figure out why it was at noon Mountain Time. When I was watching it, the main card started at noon. And that was because it was prime time in Russia, which ended up being very special because they all got to see their champion retire, and that was cool for them. But
it sucked because it was the middle of college football all day, and my Saturday night was, I would have loved to watch these UFC fights, but it makes sense. All of Russia was behind Habib, and then there was a Volkov as well as Russian. Like there was a bunch of other guys on there.
Yeah, they had Ankalaev in the first fight. He ended up dominating. I lost my cousin some money because I told him, I think Ankalaev will win, but the best odds were him knocking him out in the 3rd round, and he decided to come out and absolutely kill Kutaleba.
Yeah.
So that was
crazy knockout too, man.
Yeah, there was those Russians could fight. And what I didn't realize, and I was glad that I watched the entire pay-per-view, is Khabib's dad is one of the marquee MMA coaches in all of Russia, and most of these guys that have fought from that region have trained with his dad. So. That was a cool story.
Good little tribute to him as well.
Yeah, all of his fighters looked really good. So it was a good weekend for the UFC overall. Dana White is an asshole, and they had a soundbite during the pay-per-views. Just look at the events that I've been able to put on in a global pandemic. Like, he needed to stroke himself any more than he already does.
Pause on that, but
well, I mean, not really, because I'm sure they didn't have him on screen when he was saying it, so who knows what his hands were doing. But he was he's a little bit tough to get behind. Honestly, but he's the greatest promoter in the world right now.
Honestly, he can do whatever the hell he wants. He's made Saturdays every Saturday basically, because even all the fight night cards have been incredible. Like now Tuesday with Dana White Contender Series coming back. Dana White is an animal, man. He is one of the best promoters of all time.
That was a huge pay-per-view for now you lead the pay-per-view into the Contender Series, and then you have Anderson Silva coming up this weekend. Oh, that's my laptop. Jesus, wow, we are very professional.
Apart.
Yeah, it's coming off at the rails. We are unhinged, by the way. Yeah, so, but now you have Uriah Hall and Anderson Silva fighting this weekend for a main event, and then you don't get another UFC card for a while. But I think they've oversaturated it. Everybody's gotten to see it now in the pandemic when nothing else was going on. You can take a little bit of a break, give your fighters some time to rest. Because they had one guy on this card who had just fought in Abu Dhabi 2 weeks ago, or 3 weeks before he fought this past weekend. So he flew to Abu Dhabi for his first fight, had to stay there for a week with all the testing and stuff, flies home, and then he's like, hey, you want to come fight? It's catchweight, so you don't have to be 135, you can be 140. So he flew all the way back to Abu Dhabi. So I think they need a little bit of a break.
These fighters are something else, man. I love the UFC. I think it's overtaken boxing as the greatest combat sport. And I'm not saying UFC, I'm saying MMA in general, because MMA top to bottom is one of the best, and boxing is very top heavy. It's not a lot of great depth, but the UFC top to bottom is one of the best combat sports in all of sports. Sorry, it's combat sports in all sports.
Boxing dropped the ball during the pandemic because they could have been doing exactly what the UFC was doing. And they have a lot of good marquee fights coming up. Tyson Fury versus Anthony Joshua is going to be the biggest fight in British boxing history, and I don't even know when that's scheduled.
Yeah, they haven't hyped that up. They haven't pushed that at all.
It's bad. So that's the UFC's done well. Dana White, I know you don't need any more praise, more than you give yourself. I'll give you a little bit. You've done a pretty good job. In unprecedented times, nobody knew what was going to happen. I'll give you some credit there because it was pretty impressive what you did. Now just elsewhere in the news of sports, or in the world of sports, in the news going on, OBJ out for the season, tore his ACL. Add him to the list. Yeah, add him to the list. Hopefully he gets better soon. AB is going to sign with Tampa Bay. Who knows when he's going to play, because I think there's still some litigation with the NFL going on with him and his situation from the past.
He gets to play with Tom Brady, so I think that maybe will help his career. Hopefully he'll be able to calm down a little bit.
Yeah, Vontaze Burfict ruined that man's life.
Yeah, no kidding.
Ever since that was a dirty hit. I will admit it as a Bengals fan, and I hated it even more because it put him in field goal range, and the Steelers beat us in the playoffs again. But AB signing with Tampa is interesting. If there is no other litigation and he doesn't have to serve some sort of suspension, the earliest he could play is Week 9 against the Saints. That would be his 2-week COVID protocol testing and everything like that. And good news, Ron Rivera beat cancer. Well,
or he's in remission.
Got to ring the bell. He'd been dealing with skin cancer. Hadn't missed a game. Hadn't missed a game that he coached. Huge football guy. That's the grit and grind from the '85 Bears coming back. And I knew. I mean, he got not lucky, but he had a very treatable form of cancer. But he took the steps, and he was able to avoid the virus with being around the players and traveling with the team. They got a win on Sunday, and they got another win on Monday. Yeah, that was huge. Good. That was a good feel-good story for Ron Rivera.
The only other news I wanted to talk about, especially, is that the NBA did come out and say that they are going to shorten the season next year, which presents itself that the Olympics will have the NBA in it. That probably was going to be a problem at originally thought, just because the season, if you played all 82 games and the season would overlap to the Olympics. Adam Silver is on top of things, knowing how big the Olympics are. So I want to give a quick shout out to Adam Silver for being on top of things and making sure that the NBA is going to be in the Olympics. So now, Gary Bettman, get your shit together so we can have the NHL back as well.
Yeah, and I think that was a smart choice too, because you had all these guys playing. Yeah, I mean the Nuggets, all the 4 teams that were left in the conference semifinals and then the finals. So they'd been playing basketball for all this time, and then they'd have to go right into an 82-game season. I think even as well conditioned as these athletes are, and they have to be, especially LeBron playing 17 years and still being the most athletic, most dominant athletic person that I've seen on a basketball court. It would have been tough if they would have had to go straight into an 82-game season.
Both NHL and NBA. NBA has said that they wanted to do a Christmas start time, which I would love because I love Christmas Day basketball. But hopefully the NHL and the NBA are able to get things together, because quick turnaround is also tough. But having a shortened season and making sure that players will be in the Olympics makes it even better, though. So Gary Bettman, get your shit together, man, because you're right up there with Rob Manfred. Actually, not yet, because Rob Manfred's still an idiot. But
Rob Manfred's awful, but.
And then also another news, man, the World Series game, it's 3-2 right now. They're talking about this, I believe. Game 6 is on Tuesday, the day before this podcast comes out. Game 7 is Wednesday. So if you're listening to this on Wednesday, be sure to tune into that Game 7.
If it's happening.
If it's happening, we'll talk about that more next week, especially since we have recorded this before. So give us a little bit of slack there. But one of the craziest World Series games in history, Game 4. The Rays pull off one of the craziest plays and I've ever seen.
Yeah, it was straight out of Moneyball. It was similar to how the Nationals won the wild card last year with the outfield error and then a throwing error back into the infield. Having played baseball, knowing the kind of it was a bang bang play, and baseball is one of those sports where anything weird can happen on any single play, and sometimes your glove just has a hole in it. I think that's what happened to the catcher. There's also, I mean, somebody could have been backing him up, and they would have been able to just not give up the game-winning run and just tie the game and go into extra innings. But Clayton Kershaw pitched very well last night. Or Sunday night.
That was still my final or World Series MVP pick. I think if Game 6 goes the distance, I think you might see Kershaw throw in the ninth inning, especially the Dodgers are up, which I'd love to see because that will help his MVP case more and will need some more money. But if it goes to Game 7, I would highly think that we are going to see Kershaw in 8 through 9 innings, 7 through 9.
And that's what I was talking about when we first started talking about the World Series. And starter, reliever, doesn't matter at this point. Who's going to give me the best chance to win this game? Clayton Kershaw showed the other night. I'm pulling up the box score now. He 5 2/3 innings pitched, 2 earned runs, which they won 4-2. They tried to give it away in the ninth inning. It was close there for a second, but he had 6 strikeouts and only 2 walks, and that's not a bad stat line, especially for a guy who everybody and their mother loves to tell you how awful he is in the playoffs. It's difficult, really, because he's on the LA Dodgers, which behind, I think, the Yankees and Red Sox, probably one of the most hated teams in the MLB.
Yep.
But he's a good guy, and I talked about it, I can't remember when, but every time that Matthew Stafford plays, they have to tell you that he and Clayton Kershaw were teammates in high school. But I think those are the 2 nicest guys that have never been able to get over the hump. It would be kind of cool. I don't want LA to win a World Series because they're insufferable already.
Yeah, they just won a basketball championship. Now they get the World Series.
They would end up being the Tampa Bay because then they could win. I don't think that the Rams have a chance to win the Super Bowl, but they'd win 2 out of 4 major sports championships.
Yeah, and then Tampa Bay would have to rely on the Buccaneers. But either way, Tampa Bay or LA are getting another championship, which kind of sucks, but whatever.
It's interesting.
We have a lot of droughts, especially in Colorado, with championships. Not football, but we've had basketball, hockey.
No, I mean baseball. With football too, because before 2015, it was like 14 years.
That's
so
true. That's true.
It has.
Hopefully, won't be another 14 years for football.
But tell me about it. Tell me about it, Nico.
Yeah, you gotta deal with it.
30 years. 30 years. Bengals haven't won a playoff game. 1991.
That's tough. That's a great segue. Let's get into our pick'em, man. It's like we said.
Oh, real quick before we get into this week's pick'em. You threw me under the bus pretty quick last week, and then the Eagles came back and won by a point.
I picked the Giants to win, and then Jon Jones just shit the bed.
He just tripped at the 11-yard line. That's all that happened.
Oh my gosh, that was.
I don't know how that happened, honestly. He ran faster than Lamar Jackson. He probably went too fast, and his body's like, what?
Like, what the hell are you doing? Oh my god! I picked against your Bengals. I almost gave you some love. I almost got your team to win. Yeah. So I might have to do it again this week, but. Oh man, I almost got your team a W. So
that would have been nice.
So let's start Thursday night. We have the Falcons versus Carolina. This is a shit show of a game again, but I don't know. This is Matt Ryan. Do you think the Falcons are in tanking mode for Justin Fields and Matt Ryan gets traded, or do you think the Falcons are able to pull one out of their ass and get a win here, or what?
If the Falcons were smart and they really need to think about rebuilding what they had, they should be looking to shop Matt Ryan and Julio Jones probably, because you have Calvin Ridley and you have some other weapons that you can draft in the upcoming years. So I think that you could probably look at maybe moving on from Matt Ryan and Julio Jones, and I think that would be the smarter option here. Is it going to happen? Who knows? Because they can't even not score a touchdown correctly. But I don't know. This game is interesting because the Panthers, they have to prove whether or not they're actually a wild card contender. They're one of those teams that I thought were going to be in the hunt. Teddy Bridgewater hasn't been what he was last year, but he hasn't been bad. So they have some things going for them. Maybe, I think, is McCaffrey coming back this week?
He was supposed to come back last week, but he was out. I think he probable this week, so I'm not sure.
So if they get him back, that'll help out. And then Robbie Anderson and
DJ
Moore have been really good. So I think I'm going to go back to my pick 'em here. I picked the Panthers to win this game.
I'm going to surprise people. I'm going with the Falcons. I think they've had some very tough.
You want the Falcons to get a win before they play the Broncos?
Yeah, so they can suck and so they can get some momentum.
I guess they did just shit the bed after they won 2 weeks ago.
That was so bad. They'll lose it again. Todd Gurley fucking can't fall on the 1 yard line. He has to get a touchdown. Which helped my fantasy team, but.
Well, good. Did you win this week,
finally? No, I went over 30. It's just one shit show after another. Fantasy football every week just fucking sucks.
Hey, the Saints are going to move on from Michael Thomas, so maybe you should too. But I bet you nobody takes that trade anymore now, with the way this season's ended up.
No kidding.
Next game, Titans and Bengals. I got some weird feelings about this one, especially now that knowing that the Titans cut the boy Will Compton.
Broncos signed Will Compton, baby. Give me some more linebacker depth.
I would probably see him signing with the Raiders before the Broncos because they love him. And when he tweeted out that he did get cut today, the Raiders fans were pretty excited and wanted him to come back. I'm picking the Titans. I think this is as much as it pains me to say it, I think this is a get-right game for the Titans. Yeah. But I think it's going to be more difficult than they think. This isn't a trap game because the Bengals are good enough that they can beat the Titans, especially if they play the same way they did last week. Somebody ought to tell the Titans that the game starts 2 hours before it actually does so that they show up on time. That was terrible. They did end up coming back and making it a game. But I don't think that the Bengals have enough to beat the Titans yet. I think that it'll be close, but I'm picking the Titans in this one.
Yeah, I'm picking the Titans too. Derrick Henry is an animal. Luckily, he's been the one bright spot in my fantasy football leagues, but it's tough to pick against the Titans back-to-back weeks. We both picked them to beat Pittsburgh, which was a little bit shocking, but
I only did it because I can't pick.
Only way the Bengals win this game is if Joe Burrow passes for 600 yards.
I think Joe Burrow's going to outplay Ryan Tannehill, but he doesn't have a running back to outplay Derrick Henry.
Yeah, I think Mixon was hurt last week, and if he's able to play this week, he's still not as good as Derrick Henry. Derrick Henry is a fucking animal.
No, yeah, Derrick Henry he's a creative player in that. He is 6'4", ran a 4.40, and threw Josh Norman out the club. He's his own lead blocker with his stiff arm.
He's an animal. Next game we have the Patriots going into Buffalo. This is a very interesting game. The Buffalo Bills, no one circles wagon like the Buffalo Bills. Patriots coming off back-to-back losses. At home, ridiculous. Now they got to go into the frigid compounds of Buffalo against Josh Allen. I mean, this is tough. I'm going Buffalo easily. Patriots do not look good. I think we might see Stidham soon. Cam Newton, like we said, Broncos have broke that man twice now. He has not looked like himself like he was the first 2 weeks. He's played a 4-quarter season already in 6 games. Like, he was terrible. He was great in the first half, and just absolutely terrible in the second. And he has not been good the last few weeks. I'm going the Bills. The Bills shocked me, though, only beating the Jets by 8 points the other day. But I still think
they were losing for most of that game too.
Yeah, I still think they're better than the Patriots, so I'm going Bills.
Yeah, I'm picking the Bills too, but only because I think they're going to get some rollover get back. Because last week should have been a get-right game.
Yeah.
And this could be another, okay, well, we didn't play as well there. Now we get the Patriots at home. It's the first time that they played the Patriots this season. If you really want to establish yourself as the number 1 team in the East, you kind of got to beat the Patriots because they've been that team for 20, almost 21 years.
Something ridiculous.
Yeah, since 2001. So it's crazy. But I do think that the Bills are going to beat them, so I picked the Bills in this one too.
That's going to be a great game, though. I think it could be game of the league. But another game that's going to be very interesting. The Raiders, coming off a pummeling by the Bucks, are going into Cleveland without OBJ now. This is a very tough game to pick on because both teams are coming off big losses. Browns came off a win, but they came off a loss of losing OBJ. Now they have one less weapon, and the Raiders lost a big one. So who do you got in this one? This is tough. This is very tough.
This is a kind of a toss-up. I'm picking the Browns because I think that the way that they won that game last week and the fact that Baker Mayfield missed his first 5 passes and then only missed like 1 or 2 after, they picked up some pretty good momentum towards the end of that game. And yeah, OBJ is out, but they got Donovan Peoples-Jones, who made the game-winning catch over Darius Phillips, who's a veteran cornerback. It's not like he did that over a rookie. Their Higgins has been pretty good too. And if they can get Chubb back, they're probably the best running team in the league, maybe behind the Titans.
Yeah, Kareem Hunt's played very well for them. I'm going to give him a lot of credit.
He's really kicked it into gear, huh?
Oh, gosh, not with those puns. Yeah, I'm picking the Browns, too. I hate the Raiders with all my passion. The Raiders are
They're your
team
Steelers,
that I
yeah.
hate, your Steelers, so I'm going with the Browns. Baker, like we said, one of the worst first quarters we've ever seen. 0 for 6. Interception, like just absolutely terrible first quarter, but he got his shit together and was able to come back on top. Next game we have Detroit Lions hosting the Colts. Lions coming off that big win in Atlanta. Who do you have this one? This is going to be a shit show of a game, but I think it's going to be very close.
I think it's going to be close too. It was so weird when you watch that Todd Gurley touchdown. It's so weird to have the offensive guy like, no, I didn't score. I didn't score. And the defense is like, no, come on, give it to him so that our offense can get back. I know we suck, but our offense can score and win this one. I'm going with the Lions.
We're picking them this week, huh? I'm picking Lions too.
Yeah, I think the Lions are going to be able to beat the Colts, especially at home. And now, I think they're playing for Matt Patricia to keep his job.
Hey, the Lions are 3-3.
Yeah.
If they win this game, 4-3. Look out, they're wild card contention. And the Colts still have the worst quarterback, or one of the worst statistic quarterbacks in NFL history behind them.
You motherfreaker!
Phillip Rivers probably going to throw another 5 interceptions this week to Jeff Okudah.
Yeah.
Darius Slay is in Philadelphia now. Jeff Okudah. So I'm picking Lions too, man. I'd love to see Matt Stafford do well because he's one of those guys where it never gets love. He is one of the most stable quarterbacks. He doesn't really get hurt that often.
No, and he's really tough because he came back into the game one time when he had a separated shoulder and came back and won.
Tough guy, man. I hope he does well. I'm picking Lions there.
The Colts are coming off a bye week, so that might be a little bit of an X factor. They are favored by 3 points on the road, so
that might be something you need to take.
Yeah,
sure.
You should probably take. I'd take the Lions to cover that spread.
Yeah.
I think the Lions are built to win like 1 to 2 point games. I don't think that they're built to blow anybody out, and I think that they're honestly decent enough that they can get blown out, but it's taking teams that are established and teams that know what they're doing to blow them out.
And for the longest time, they blew games, and then now Atlanta is known for blowing games, so now they have the back monkey off their shoulder.
Yeah.
So they get to move on from that. Next game we have, this is going to be a good one. In the Tundra, Green Bay, Minnesota, we have an old school Minnesota Vikings versus Green Bay Packers matchup. Going to be a fun rivalry game.
Who do you got in this one? I'll let you go first because I've gone first most of the
I'll go Packers. Packers dominated last week. I think it's very easy to pick the Packers here. Aaron Rodgers showed why he's a bad man. And he's going to show it again, especially at home. It's tough, man. At Minnesota, I don't believe in Kirk Cousins. I don't.
No, I don't believe in Kirk Cousins either. I still don't think that the Packers, they did prove me. I said, go out and show me that you're one of the best teams in the league. I don't think that they showed me that they're one of the best teams in the league, but they did win against a quarterback who's playing out of his mind. So I'll give them that. I picked the Packers too, just because Aaron Rodgers has some weapons around him now. If they can get Aaron Jones back, that would be huge. But Devontae Adams having 200 yards receiving and 2 touchdowns, if you can get that, just like half of that production every single week, you're an all-pro receiver, first-team all-pro receiver. So it's tough to pick against the Packers when they're going up against a team in their division who I don't think is even on the same level. The Vikings, they got to figure something out. Honestly, maybe they're in the tank for Trevor sweepstakes too.
Or tank for Justin Fields.
It's one of the two. I think they need to get a new quarterback. You wasted a ton of money by bringing in Kirk Cousins for $80 million guaranteed. And the fact that even the Washington football team wouldn't commit to Kirk Cousins should have been a red flag to you, but you didn't listen, and you did it anyways.
Paid him all that money, and what is that show for? Third
you like that?
Division.
You like that?
Next game, let's not waste our time here. Chiefs are going to win by 50 over the Jets. That's pretty simple.
It's a 19.5 point spread.
I'm taking that. It's not even going to be close.
Over under 48. Do you think the Chiefs hit that in the first half or the second?
Okay, I'll give the Jets a little bit of credit. I'll say they'll hit in the second half.
Yeah. Bang the over.
Bang the over. I'm taking easily both of us taking the Chiefs. Next one, we have the Rams going into Miami. First start for Tua Tagovailoa.
Yep.
Gonna be fun. I'm definitely gonna watch that game just because I love watching Tua play football.
If it's on.
I'm going to shock some people. I'm going Dolphins. I think Tua gets his first win. The Rams dominated today, though, against the Bears, but the Bears are the imposter, quote unquote, the imposter in the room. So I'm going Dolphins with the upset because I want to see Tua do well. And although I love Fitzpatrick, Tua's a man. He's a bad man too.
Yeah, that was such a strange situation. And Ryan Fitzpatrick's probably the only quarterback who would take that.
Yeah,
even he did come back and say that it did hurt him. It did break his heart that he had done, like, he had played out of his mind. He definitely earned himself like 2 or 3 more contracts as a backup or a mentor role. Maybe he gets picked up by Minnesota to mentor whoever they draft at quarterback next year. I'm picking the Rams, but I do think this is a game where I'm picking the Rams, but I could definitely see the Dolphins, especially since nobody has really any film on Tua in the NFL. That's always, when the new quarterback comes in, they always have the best chance to be really good when nobody knows what they're going to play like. You don't have any tendencies. You don't have anything like that. Hopefully he stays healthy. That's a tough game coming in to a guy who's had a lot of injuries. Aaron Donald, and they have a ton of other pass rushers that could get after him a little bit. And their offensive line, they're going to need to bolster their offensive line. I'm picking the Rams in that one.
That's a pretty easy one. Next one, we have game of the week, easily game of the week. Pittsburgh Steelers going into Baltimore. Baltimore coming off a bye week. When I was looking at this, the Ravens are favored, which I think was very, very interesting because Steelers are undefeated.
Mm-hmm. Only undefeated team
left. They've been playing really well. Big Ben has been playing like Big Ben, and you can see why they missed him so badly last year. He's been playing unbelievable.
I refuse to give Ben Roethlisberger any credit.
That's
Rotten Booger does not get any credit from me. If you've been listening to the podcast, you know who I'm picking. You know that I can't pick that team from Pittsburgh. But I'll give them credit. As a team, they're pretty good. I hope that the Ravens are still the best team in the division because I can't handle Steelers fans being able. I'm talking directly at you, Rev. I know that we're buddies. I can't. I hope that the Ravens win, and I hope that they win by a lot. I'm a diehard Ravens fan this weekend. I'm picking the Ravens.
I'll pick the Steelers, man. I think they showed me a lot last week. Tennessee is a game team, and they put it on them the first half. Yes, they choked a little bit.
They lost Devin Bush.
Devin Bush was going to hurt them, but Juju Smith and Chase Claypool, who I think is Offensive Rookie of the Year right now, man, they have a lot of weapons. The Big Ben's having a lot of fun with all those young guys. So I'm gonna pick the Steelers. I think that's gonna, you're gonna hear about that a little bit later with Beats the League for me, but it's gonna be a fantastic game. That's 11 o'clock, the premier 11 o'clock slot game. If you can watch that, be sure to tune in there.
Yeah.
Now we have my Denver Broncos, baby, against the LA Chargers. Melvin Gordon facing his old team. Chris Harris facing his old team.
Mm-hmm.
Going to be a fun one at Mile High. Hopefully it isn't as cold as the last one. Maybe I'll get to go again this week. But I'm sticking with my Broncos. I'm going to pick them again because I still think we can get back to 500.
Mm-hmm.
Like I said, these next 4 weeks are going to be huge, and it starts this week, and the Chargers still are the Chargers.
Yeah, the Chargers are the Chargers. I'm picking the Broncos too. I can't give them all that credit that I did when we talked about their game game last week and not pick them.
Yeah.
But I do see some, like I said, Justin Herbert not having any of the history in his mind, not really looking like he cares about any of the history. He got his first win last week. Maybe that gives him a little bit of momentum. So I'm wary, but I'm going to pick the Broncos because the Chargers like to lose games in Denver. So I'll go with my hometown team.
And Justin Herbert playing a Mile High for the first time.
Yeah.
Could be cold. If the Broncos defense plays as good as it did last week, I think we see the Broncos get back on track. Next game we have the Saints going into Chicago. The Bears got demolished today against the Rams. This is going to be an interesting game because I could see the Bears winning this game. I don't know why, but I feel like this is a game the Bears could pull out of their asses.
I mean, this is why you and I we basically think pretty much the same because I feel the same way. Everything that's going on with the Saints, with Michael Thomas and having to get rid of him and trying to figure all that out, I'm still on the side of Drew Brees is way past his prime. He's basically, I think he's worse than Peyton was in 2015 right now. He hasn't looked right all season. I'm picking the Bears in this one because the Bears are what a lot of people thought the Broncos were going to be. An outrageous defense with a mediocre to subpar offense. And it hurt them tonight because LA knows how to score. Sean McVay is one of the best offensive minds in football. So I'm picking the Bears in this one. It's a tough one. It can go either way.
I wanted to pick the Saints because I like Drew Brees. He's a great guy.
I have nothing against him.
He's had a great career.
Nothing against him, but I think
I'm going to go Bears too. I just at home into Soldier Field in Chicago, man. Probably going to be cold. It's hard. I'm going the Bears, baby.
Saints don't play well outside the dome. So.
And now going to, I think, in my opinion, the best division in football, the San Francisco 49ers going into Seattle on Sunday night. I believe Sunday night. No, not Sunday night game.
The Cowboys-Eagles
should have been a Sunday night game, but one of the best, two of the best teams. San Francisco coming off a big win, and Seattle getting upset in Arizona. Who do you have here?
I picked the 49ers. I think I expected the Cardinals to. I thought that they had a chance to beat them last week, or when we were on the podcast last week, and it ended up being pretty much what I thought it was going to be. The Seahawks have lived and died by the one possession game for too long, and if you do that when you're let's be honest, the Seahawks have the talent and they are good enough. They should be blowing out a lot of the teams that they've only beaten by a few points. So I think that was a little bit of a wake-up call, but I do think that the 49ers are going to be able to take one from the Seahawks, and I think this is going to be that one.
See, we both picked Cardinals last week. We both thought it was a hiccup game. We both were spot on. And I mean spot on. I think the Seahawks have so much talent, man. DK Metcalf, the fastest man in the NFL.
That was incredible.
Incredible. Literally
it's the most athletic thing that I've ever seen.
Ran 90 yards.
Yeah.
To catch Buda Baker, man.
And he caught him he caught him outside of the 10-yard line.
That was crazy.
So he made up the 10-yard head start that Buda Baker had. Buda Baker's not slow.
Yeah, Buda Baker's not slow. DK Metcalf is this generation's Calvin Johnson. Yeah. I think he's young in his career, but he's a stud. So I'm gonna go the Seahawks just because. Like I said, last week was a hiccup. I think Seattle gets back on track. 49ers dominated the Patriots. I think that was more of a knock on Patriots. Yeah. Not Patriots didn't look good. I think San Francisco still is too banged up, and I think Seattle still has the talent to beat them.
Yeah.
And now the Sunday night game that just
before we start talking about the shit show, I wanted to give a shout out to the Cardinals. I have a buddy, Garrett, who lives out in Arizona, and he's a big Cardinals fan. And the fact that that was a huge win for Kyler Murray in his career because they trailed the entire game, didn't take the lead until they won the game with that kick in overtime. So shout out to the Cardinals.
And Zane Gonzalez was able to.
He did redeem himself because that was going to be bad. And we'll talk. We talked about Isaiah Simmons. He'll come up again. That was a huge play. One of the defining plays of his rookie season. Yeah. So now we get to talk about the NFC least.
So who do you think is the Dallas starting quarterback? I have no idea. Who?
Danucci is the backup who came in and played against Washington. By the way, whoever I can't remember the name of the guy for the Redskins. He should have been suspended for the rest of the year on that.
That was ridiculous. And then I also saw something like none of the Cowboys came in defending Andy Dalton.
Oh no, that's
Zach Martin was injured. He didn't play last week, but I guarantee you he would have been in that part.
Oh, I would have.
No one on Dallas went and defended him after that shit he hit on him.
I get that he's not your starting quarterback, but that's not something.
That is not something you let happen.
Ever since you start playing football, if somebody takes a cheap shot at one of your guys, you have to be able to jump in and help out, and that's. It's a culture thing. That's a culture thing. It's terrible. Zeke should have been on top of that guy. That guy shouldn't have been able to walk off the field, and he should have been suspended for the rest of the year because that was one of the most egregious. It's on par with that Flacco hit when he got knocked unconscious too. Andy Dalton has a family. All these guys have people who depend on them, and if you're gonna headhunt and you're gonna do that bullshit that guy did, that is absolutely uncalled for. You should not be allowed to play for the rest of the season. And you know what? Maybe not even next season, because I know you're not making the playoffs. This should be a 16-game suspension. You should be out for the rest of this season and half of next season. That was uncalled for.
Ridiculous.
I'm stopping just short of saying you should be kicked out because everybody deserves a second chance. You're not Vontez perfect. You haven't done this a lot, but you should not be able to play for a year and a half and give up all your game checks. Go find a second job while you're serving the suspension because what you did was absolutely uncalled for.
It should not be in the game. Like we said, it's been a story of this year how some of these hits players are just playing with their spirits and they're just headhunting. It feels like almost. There's been a lot of terrible injuries and going after a quarterback's head. Terrible, man, terrible. I am gonna this Eagles team. I picked against them because I thought the Giants were gonna pull it off. I'm gonna pick the Cowboys. The Cowboys are gonna. I hate doing this, man, but Zeke, they're going to run the ball 80 times. Zeke is going to fucking run the ball. And the Eagles aren't going to be able to stop him.
You don't think Malik Jackson's going to be able to stop him? The guy who scored the first touchdown in your last Super Bowl victory, you don't think he's going to be able to stop him?
No, you're not going to be able to stop Zeke. They're going to hand the ball off so many times. And maybe they get CeeDee Lamb some production, but Eagles aren't.
Coming from Danucci,
this division sucks. God,
this is awful.
So bad.
One of these teams.
I can't believe I just picked the Cowboys after they lost, but then they only put up 3 points.
Just remember that one of these teams you're going to host a playoff game.
Ugh.
One of them is going to host a playoff game.
Who do you have this
I'm
one?
picking the Eagles. It's difficult picking the Eagles because I think Doug Peterson has lost whatever he had in the Super Bowl. He's one of the worst. He's easily coached himself out of a few wins, and he coached himself into a tie with the Bengals. This is the only reason why the Eagles are still technically top of the division.
Ridiculous.
But I picked the Eagles in this one, so
ridiculous. That's the Sunday night game.
I stayed away from football, so I wasn't burnt out this past weekend for the Sunday night game. This one, I don't even care who wins. This is just
watch all the rest of the games, and then go have some dinner with your family and play some board games because you do not want to watch the Sunday night game.
Record Saturday Night Live and watch it when the Sunday night game is playing. This is
exactly.
Awful.
And then Monday night, we have one team who just came off a huge win in Vegas. Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Maybe we'll get CAB. Maybe we won't.
Tampa Bay.
Going into the New York Football Giants. I think this is pretty self-explanatory.
Yeah,
I'm going Bucs as well.
There's no upset happening.
No upset happening. Daniel Jones. I saw a lot of people say that he's bust. I think you got to give him a little bit of time.
Yeah, and especially in that situation because this is his second coach in 2 years. So.
You got to give him a little bit of respect, give him a little bit of love. Without Saquon, their offense is very stagnant.
Mm-hmm.
But I'm going Bucs here, and I think you probably doing the same thing, aren't you?
Yeah, I'm going Bucs only because they are starting to be. Everybody missed out on their chance to really dominate Tampa. And now they seem to start gelling a little bit. Gronk had a touchdown from Brady. Brady played out of his mind, 369 yards passing. I think that's his season high. He might have had one game where he outdid that. But Brady and Gronk are finding themselves again. Godwin is kind of getting on the same page with everybody else. Rojo is a pretty good running back, Ronald Jones. And they still have Fournette as a backup. So Tampa's scary, and we didn't even talk about their defense. Their defense is what's won them a few games. Antoine Winfield, Levante David, Devin White. I still think that Vita Vea, I think he's hurt, but they have Ndamukong Suh. I still think the Broncos should have drafted Devin White over trading back in that year's draft. But their defense is stacked. Bruce Arians, other than that Cardinals team who made it to the, I don't think they made it to the NFC Championship and lost to the Panthers. That was the year that the Broncos made it too. Yep. But I think this is his best shot to get a Super Bowl as a head coach since that year.
Yeah, Bucs are on a tear, man. That division also is a lot of fun to watch. The Bucs, I think, probably going to run away with that division, but yeah, Bucs in that one. But that's our picks of the week, man. We're gonna do this weekly, like we've been saying. Next week, we'll talk about more next week, but next week we will be starting doing NFL Unhinged on Sunday mornings. Mm-hmm. So if you live in Denver area,
you'll have to get up early.
You'll have to get up early, or you can just listen to us record, whatever it may be. But we'll have a bunch of the other guys on the Unhinged Network, and we'll be discussing the games. I'll be waking up earlier than I would like to on Sundays, but it'll be worth it because talking football on Sunday morning is always so much fun.
Yeah, it's going to be fun. And some of the guys, there's already some contentious personalities. Jim, the J-Dash from the J-Dash Morning Show, we are on good terms, but he and I do go back and forth quite a bit. And he's a big SEC guy. I'm a big Big Ten guy. I hate Boston sports with all of my passion. And he's from Boston. He lives in Jacksonville, but he's from Boston. So that'll be fun. So be on the lookout for that. And then also Gridiron Gallery. Zach is very, very knowledgeable about football. Which is
Spring League coming too. That he'll be, if you want to watch some extra football, Spring League action as well. Watch that. Get some great insight from Zach, man, because he's been covering that nonstop, man. He's got that top to bottom.
Yeah. So be on the lookout for that. And now, as we're coming up on the end of another episode. We're almost 12 deep in this
podcast.
podcast.
Pause there.
Pause.
12 deep. You did not need to.
I didn't do that on purpose. That one was just by happenstance. But yeah, we're almost finished with episode 12. Let's get into our ending segments because I don't know if people listen to our beats of the week, but they should be.
They should, man. We're gonna say every single week, man. We've been killing our beats of the week.
Mm-hmm. So
you lost your Gaethje bet, but I also lost my Habib bet because I thought I was gonna go the distance, but I should. I didn't because I bet against my bet that I picked on beat of the week because I picked Habib to win in under the distance on on BetMGM, by the way. Shout out BetMGM or FanDuel.
Shout out FanDuel because I was betting on FanDuel.
Whatever it may be, but that's what I usually bet on. I picked him to win under the distance, or under the distance, so I won money there. But there's so many great things in fight. Let's start. We both have UFC picks this weekend.
Yep.
Let's start there. So the main event, we have Anderson Silva, one of the greats, facing Uriah Hall. Anderson Silva is a plus 155 underdog. I know Anderson Silva is old and he should be retired.
He hasn't looked the same since he broke his leg.
Hasn't looked the same.
I think he's only won one fight since he broke his leg.
I think maybe this is his last fight, so I'm going to give him the go and tell him that he's going to win his last fight.
Have 2 retirements back-to-back weeks? Wow, that would be interesting.
That's interesting. So Anderson Silva's going to win his last ever fight in the UFC. He's a plus 155 underdog, so I'm picking him.
I'm picking Maurice Green to beat Greg Hardy. That's plus 250, so it's good odds. And honestly, if you know the story of Greg Hardy, everybody should want him to get his teeth kicked in for what he did while he was an NFL offensive lineman.
Or defensive lineman
for the Cowboys.
And Panthers,
Yeah. Multiple times got suspended for domestic violence, arrested, and he just hasn't. He doesn't regret anything that he did. He may say that he does, but you can tell that he's a very arrogant person, and I would really like to see him get knocked out.
And his first ever UFC fight, he grounded opponent.
Yeah, he got DQ'd in his first UFC fight.
One of the most lethal moves in UFC. I'm gonna definitely bet Maurice Green as well. Greg Hardy's a scary looking motherfucker, but I'm still picking Maurice Green.
He's one of the most athletic heavyweights in the division, but he's a shitty fighter. If you watch him fight, he's awful. He just wins because he's more athletic than people.
Maybe you need to feed him a better matchup like Ngannou, just so he can get his teeth knocked in.
I would like to see that. I don't want him to have the chance, if by the off chance that he ends up winning I don't want him being a champion in the UFC, but I would love to see him get his ass kicked.
That's fair. My next beat of the week, I'm sticking with football. Auburn is a plus 125 to beat LSU. LSU is not what the team they were last year.
I would take that.
I think Auburn could surprise some people, although they're not a top 25 team. They're still always around, stick around in big
Nix
games.
is a pretty good quarterback.
Nix is a stud, so I'm going to pick Auburn to beat LSU plus 125. It's very surprising. They've not had a good year. They lost so many pieces on the offense last year, and they're not the same team. So plus 125, I'm very surprised they were underdogs.
You want my huge odds, or do you want my regular ones next?
Give me the regular ones. We'll finish the huge odds.
So I also have college football. Kansas State, like I mentioned earlier, they're plus 116 to beat West Virginia. Big 12 football is up for grabs. Big 12 football is nobody knows who's going to win. Everybody knows there's going to be a lot of points scored. And since Kansas State has beaten Oklahoma already this season, I don't think that it's out of the realm of possibility they beat Kansas or West Virginia. Plus 116, you can win a little bit of cash there.
That's a pretty good one. My last one, man, it's going against you. I said this earlier. Steelers to beat the Ravens, plus 155. I think the Steelers defense might be able to stop slow Lamar down. TJ Watt will be able to hold the edge a lot better than what they've seen, so I think they might be able to keep him in check. I think plus 155 is a little disrespectful, especially since the Steelers are undefeated.
This should be a minus 110 all around.
Yeah,
there shouldn't be a favorite. Yeah, there shouldn't be a betting favorite.
I'm taking Steelers plus 155 to beat the Ravens in Baltimore.
Minka Fitzpatrick is probably going to make life hell for Lamar Jackson, so that's not a terrible thing. My last one, this is my crazy one. Georgia Tech is plus 710 to beat Notre Dame.
Oh, upset Georgia Tech.
But
after what they did against Clemson?
That was Clemson. This is Notre Dame.
That's fair.
I think Georgia Tech, honestly, they've been held back by the offense that they ran because up until 2 years ago they ran the triple option. Their quarterback is a playmaker. And if you want to talk about a trap game, this is the other part of why I picked this game because I was looking at the schedule earlier. 1 second. I'm gonna pull it. I'm gonna go.
This was a very ballsy move, Jim.
Plus 710.
With the way Georgia Tech played against Clemson, I think it's very hard to pick them against Notre Dame.
Georgia Tech did bounce back. They won last week, but if you look at Notre Dame's schedule, who do they play right after Georgia Tech? Clemson. Yeah. What does that mean this game is? It's a trap game.
Trap game.
Plus 710 on a trap game? Why not?
Yeah.
You don't have to put down any money, and you can win quite a bit back. Plus 710 is huge odds for what I think is a underrated team going up against one of the most overhyped teams of all time.
Yeah. Before we move on to the rest of our segments, I got to touch on this because this is just an outrageous stat. Like we said earlier, we didn't even want to talk about it because this game is going to be a blowout. But the Chiefs are a minus 2,500 favorite to beat the Jets. One of the biggest odds I've ever seen, like biggest favorites I've ever seen in NFL history. Jets are plus 1,200. I swear to God, please don't bet this. Please do not bet the Jets. This is not going to happen. The Jets
Stay
are
away from
so
this game.
bad. The Chiefs dominated the Broncos and didn't even have to put up offensive points. And the Jets barely lost the Broncos. They're not. It's going to be a terrible game.
Minus 2,500 is a bad line. That means you have to put down $2,500 just to break even.
Honestly, I might fucking do that just because I might bet all of my fucking bet MGM account just on the Chiefs to win so I can win a little bit more money.
It would be something, and don't do that because then you'll jinx yourself, and it'll be a random game where the Jets end up.
If I bet, I have $200 right now dollars in my bet MGM account, which I started with 40, so I'm on the positive. But if I bet $200, I win $8.
Yeah.
Yes, that's not good enough return.
All right, let's move on. You want to do player of the week or play of the week?
Let's do play of the week because there are so many great ones this week.
Yeah.
I was on the verge of a couple. I wanted to go with the DK Metcalf run. I think that was one of the most athletic plays I've ever seen.
Yeah.
Crazy
things I've ever seen. That's for sure.
That was unbelievable. But I'm gonna go different here. I'm gonna go the Michael Penix Jr., the second best MPJ in the country. Yes, shout out Michael Porter Jr. You're still my fave, baby. Michael Penix Jr. stretched to beat Penn State. The balls to go for two after
it wasn't one of the overtimes where you're forced to go for two.
Exactly. It wasn't one. It was one of those earlier ones, and father stretched my hand like just.
I don't know
if he got.
I don't know how he did it because when he hits the pylon with the ball, the rest of his body's in the air. I don't know how it's like he levitated so that he can touch the pylon with the ball. I don't know if it was inbounds or out of bounds, depending on who you root for. Jeremy, I know what you think. But depending on who you root for. It could go either way, but it was crazy, and it was a huge upset too.
Jumping from the 5-yard line and reaching that far, I picked that just because it was a huge upset.
Yeah.
Penn State was projected to be top of the Big Ten, and they lose to Indiana like that, and the balls on Tom Allen to call that. I gotta love it. That
was good. That one is good enough. I mean, both the DK one could have probably competed with one too. Isaiah Simmons, if you play Madden competitively, if you play Madden online, you know about lurking. Mm-hmm. Isaiah Simmons lurked in real life last night, and he did that on Russell Wilson, who I think before that game had only thrown 2 interceptions previous. One was in his rookie season, and the other, everybody knows, Malcolm Butler in the Super Bowl.
Yeah.
But he tricked a savvy veteran like Russell Wilson, who he doesn't get tricked often, and he's a rookie. This is the biggest play of his career so far. Ended up setting up the Cardinals to win in overtime. First career interception for him, and then returned it a little bit farther so that they can get a better shot at a revenge field goal for their kicker. My pick for player of the week is Isaiah Simmons.
That was a fantastic pick. I mean, if you play Madden, you'll know that player reminds you very much of a lot of different things. One of the things that reminds me of is like when you press A too many times in that, because Russell Wilson threw that ball right away.
Yeah.
To nobody.
There was a lag when he was trying to snap, and then all of a sudden he was throwing it. Yeah. It was. I can't believe he threw it. I'm glad that he did. Like I said, shout out to the Cardinals. That was a huge. It's one of the best games that I've watched. It's on par with the Chiefs-Rams from Monday night a few years ago. I think it's the best game of the year so far. I know there's been a lot of other ones that have been pretty good, but that was huge. So Isaiah Simmons with his first career interception is my pick.
Go pro again. Right before we finish. God damn, we almost got there. Fucking it. My fucking ass is
got to figure out something to try and keep that cool.
Yeah.
Maybe it's the light.
Oh, it's recording. Oh, fuck. My phone was just tweaking.
That's fine. I'll be able to cut it.
You can edit that. Fuck it. Alright, here we go. My phone tweaking. Well, I can't pause it to end it. I think it might be light. Oh. Yeah, you can just edit this out.
My ears are so hard.
Oh, yeah, I feel you. Wait, I'll just come over and edit. We'll just go straight into basically, yeah.
Player.
Oh, play the week, yeah. Okay.
Ready?
Yeah, you start.
All right. Now we're coming up on the very end of the show. Last segment, player of the week. You want me to start? You want to go first?
I'll let you start because I started with play of the week.
So I'm going Joe Burrow, 35-47. My quarterback. That's my quarterback. T.O. That's my quarterback. That ain't fair.
Dude was a stud this past week. I'll give him love, man. He had an incredible stat line.
35-47, 406 yards, 3 passing touchdowns, 6 carries, 34 yards, and another rushing touchdown. Don't tell me he's not a mobile quarterback because that's his second rushing touchdown.
He's a bad man too.
He's going to be a bad guy, bad man. If they can get some talent around him, he will be. He's one of those guys that you could see possibly becoming a dynasty quarterback.
Yeah.
Hopefully it's with Cincinnati. I'm not going to say that yet because they got a lot of work to do otherwise, but it was a great, crazy stat line. I'm so happy that he's playing up to this level. It makes me feel very, very dumb because early on in the draft process, I was like, don't draft Burrow because he's only done it for one season. Draft Chase Young. He's proven me wrong, and I'm so glad that he has.
Yeah, for my player of the week, I'm going to give love to a UFC fighter. I'm going to pick Khabib. A 29-0 career. The only time we'll ever be able to pick him because he won't be fighting ever again.
Yep.
I'm picking him for my player of the week. Like we said, only lost one round. Heartfelt win. All heart. Like he just dominated Gaethje. Gaethje was a very game fighter, but I got to go Khabib, man. 29-0 career, like we said. Like he faced some of the best competition lightweight division has ever seen. Mm-hmm. He won it for his dad, his last fight, because he didn't want to fight without his dad in his corner anymore. All love to him, man. One of the greatest UFC fighters of all time.
Yeah, I'm not mad at that. Either one wins, I'm happy with it because that was a great way to end a career like that. And now with that, let's get all the plugs and stuff out of the way. Follow, if you're listening on the Unhinged Network, stay tuned because we've got Duff City Podcast coming up, and you're gonna want to listen if you're gonna bet on the Masters. Listen to the Duff City Podcast. They're our golf podcast on the Unhinged Network. Follow the Unhinged Network on Twitter at Network Unhinged, Instagram at unhingedsn.com or unhingedsn is their Instagram handle. Unhingedsn.com is the domain where you can listen to us live Wednesdays at 1 to 3 p.m. Eastern Time. That's 11 to 1
here
in Denver, where we are. Follow us on Twitter and Instagram at FEOTBpod. Also on TikTok now.
If Game 7 is going on, we will be live tweeting Game 7 on Wednesday night. So be on the lookout for that. If Game 7 is on, just point that out. But either way, man, we have so many great things going on. Unhinged SN has been. On his Sports Network, I don't know why I keep saying SN. Sports Network, man, it's been so much fun. We're going to have a lot more collaborations with them. Like we said, we just got a basketball podcast out there in California, so we're no longer the farthest West Coast podcast on the network, which is okay with us because we still...
I'm a Midwest boy at heart. That's fine.
Yeah, so it's okay. But there's so many great podcasts on the network. I gotta love it, man. You gotta love it. You can't be.
So with that, this has been Far End of the Bench, episode 12. We'll see you next week.
Peace.